City Council meeting of June 4th is now called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And just a couple little things. I would like, I'm thankful that the sun is coming out. It makes everybody feel so much better. At the same time, though, may we please have a moment of silence for the passing of Roy Rose and Marty Winslow. Please be seated. And when you're ready, the roll call, please.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Here.
Councilmember Ponce?
Here.
Councilmember Schickling?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle?
Here.
And Mayor Marshall?
Here. Are there any announcements or written communications? None?
Not at this time.
Okay, department head reports. Who's up first? Department
Look at
heads.
everybody run up here.
That's it. Usually it's orange, so.
I'm bright white, so I'll go first. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members, and City staff. Jackie Cordero, Public Works Director. Thank you for everyone's patience and help when I was at jury duty. I was I'm so appreciative. We're getting ready for summer and working really hard to make everything really look good. So I hope you all can see the changes and everything we're doing out there. Lovers Cove stairs are almost complete. We have been doing painting on the waterfront, painting all the railings, lifeguard stands, striping along St. Catherine's Way. We put in new beach sand, and that was before Memorial Weekend. That was a big feat. There will be new storage containers going behind Tremont in the next couple of weeks. The women's mole restroom will be starting also some cleaning and repair similar to the men's, and that will be in the next week or so. And then we have open recruitments for maintenance worker 2 and mechanic that we should be interviewing in the next few weeks here. So that's really exciting. And then Public Works Week was last week. I want to thank you. I wasn't here, but I wanted to thank you for the proclamation you did. I really appreciate it. And just what I've seen, the Public Works crew is amazing. They have a strong work ethic, a great sense of duty and ownership over the city's infrastructure, beaches, restrooms, everything. And they just keep going. They start at 6 in the morning and just keep going, and even if there's overtime, they're always game. So I just want to personally thank them, and if you see them, please thank them. And that's all I have.
Jackie, the stairs at Pebbly Beach, they look really good. That whole area looks really good after all the stuff that came down, and
I know.
they did a great job of getting that all cleaned up. So
Yeah. In fact, we're actually going to have new decking material that's on its way, and it's going to even look better, I think, once that goes in.
So
But-
not wood, it'll be some of that other stuff, the
Yeah,
composite stuff.
yeah, we just wanted to get it ready for
Yeah.
the busy summer. I'm shocked, it's already here. It just flew by. So some other stronger material that's gonna make it look really fresh and clean.
Great, good.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking about the railing on East Whitley that was knocked out a couple months ago.
Yes.
Is that on your to-do list somewhere?
It's on our to-do list. Bob actually gave me the guard rails engineering plans, and he said, study this. And I have that in our discussion for tomorrow internally to discuss on how we can tackle that. There's priority of other areas all along the city that we are going to tackle, and yeah, I looked at those engineering plans, and I was like, okay, Bob, we need to sit down and talk.
Totally good. I just thought it.
How do we do this? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, shoot, I'll throw in my 2 cents. Just when I was walking around with on the Taste of Avalon with some friends, there's like a valve or something like right there by what is that, Catalina Street? So it's kind of like, you know, where the pier is and stuff like. So there's a round circle and then all the bricks and stuff around it, but there's like holes. Like the bricks aren't flush up to the
Oh, they're
valve
sunken in.
or whatever.
Yeah, sunken in.
Maybe when they made a repair or something, the bricks didn't get put back or something like that, but people were like, you know, you could I could have turned my ankle on that right there, so I was like,
On
oh.
Catalina Street, is it, on a parkway, sidewalk?
It's kind of like, you know, so we were doing the Taste of Avalon, so we're walking down Cranston, you know, so the pier's this way, and then, what is that, Latitude? Yeah, so Latitude's like right there. So there's a big valve like right there.
Okay,
Somewhere
okay.
around in
I
there. You'll
think-
see it.
Okay, perfect. I'll go check it out too. Thank you. I better leave then. Bye. Have a good day.
Sorry about that.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Since my last report on May 21st, Patrol moored 644 boats for a total of 2,474 nights. Patrol warned and advised 20 individuals of municipal code violations. They issued 4 citations, of which one was discharged for green dye under Avalon Municipal Code 10-2.503I. Harbor responded to 5 medical calls over this period, assisted the sheriffs 1 time, assisted the public 72 times, completed 185 security checks of the facilities and surrounding waters. Also during this period, additional dinghy docks were added to the club dinghy dock, providing increased dock space for the summer months. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. Michael Alegria, Fire Chief. In May, we ran 75 total calls, 62 of which were medical. This last weekend with the wine mixer, there's a new thing in LA County, any event for profit for somebody, and it's is not allowed to take, not supposed to take away regular EMS services in the city or the town. So Island Company paid for 2 extra paramedics and 2 extra firemen and 2 extra deputies, and we had it was the right amount. We had 12 total calls that day, 8 wine mixer related, so we were staffed perfectly for that. I'm going around town this week and next week and sending out letters to people that haven't done brush clearance. And lastly, we had a medical call a few months ago. Female had a baby premature baby, early. The paramedics and our guys showed up, handled the situation. It goes to show that our training with the paramedics, when we do every year we have to do continuing education, they do scenarios. So the guy said when they showed up to the call, it was actually just like the scenario, and they went to work, got the baby off, got the mom off, and the county's gonna recognize them and that whole crew of people at the end of July at the Medal of Valor Awards in Redondo Beach. So
Great. That's
of all the calls,
congratulations.
they'll be recognized with the county lifeguards and the county fire station.
That's awesome. Congratulations, yeah. Any questions of our chief? Nope, thanks.
Good evening, Sergeant Grayson Klein, Avalon Station. Since the last meeting, we've had 85 calls for service, 137 observations by the deputies. They've made 6 arrests, 2 for domestic violence, 2 for drunk in public, 1 for vandalism, and 1 for a no bail warrant. Like Mike said, the wine mixer was great for us. The staffing levels were perfect, completely different than last year. We had 0 incidents on Saturday. Friday evening, we had 1 arrest for a battery, and it was a great event for us. I mean, the jail wasn't full, we had 1 person in. Since last meeting, we've had 12 citations. Those are for stop sign, unlicensed vehicles, no helmet, and unregistered bikes.
Thank you.
We have seen a correction in behavior on those bikes. We've also got a lot of buy-in from the parents that are telling the kids not to ride them, supporting the sheriffs in their enforcement actions. And we've got a new one coming tomorrow for you guys that I haven't seen since I've been here. We've been noticed some speeding around Pedley, getting up to some pretty good speeds.
Yes.
So I've got a friend of mine bringing over a LiDAR gun, and we will be doing radar enforcement on Pebbly starting tomorrow and other areas within the city. And the LiDAR is much more accurate than a radar, and it will pick up the speed limit. So we spoke with Dave. We're gonna make sure the posted speed limit signs are within the city so that we have that standing when we're citing them for those. So that's gonna begin tomorrow. We're gonna try it as a pilot project, Detective Myers and myself. And if it's effective, we'll get everybody trained up on it and get some more of those guns. But the goal isn't to write tickets, the goal is to correct behavior.
Yes.
So we wanted to put it out for anybody watching today that we're going to begin that starting tomorrow, and it will be throughout the city. I'll also write about it in the paper this week, and like I said, it's not that we want to write tickets, but we would need to slow them down.
So are you in a sheriff's vehicle when you do that, or are you on a Segway?
I
So
can
when
be
you
wherever I want, ma'am.
Yeah, no, because in the old radar days, they had to be going for quite a while, right? But this is much more accurate, you can catch them.
LiDAR is much more accurate,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
These are
awesome.
much more accurate, and you can
Yeah.
be inside the car, outside the car, we can be on a Segway. It's not connected to the vehicle, it's a handheld device.
Right,
And it could be deployed anywhere, so putting it out there, slow down, that's all we're asking for.
yeah.
We don't want a bunch of people to get tickets, but we haven't seen that out here since I've been here, so I phoned a friend and we're gonna try it out tomorrow.
Then you can do Avalon Canyon Road, going up that way
I
as well?
think once people see this, that they'll probably
Start slowing down.
wanna start slowing down.
Thank you, that's
All right.
good news.
Grayson, I just wanted to say thank you. In the sheriff's update, the little blurb you put in about
Yes.
the electric bikes, and that, yeah, you can put a helmet on your head, but if you don't click the strap, it doesn't do any good. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And we're trying, and we're getting a lot of education with these kids. Rocky and I talk to them on a daily basis, and then we even had some parents this week, the child got a ticket for being on one of those bikes. We called to pick him up, because we weren't gonna let him drive home, and they said, no, he needs to learn. Can you put him in jail? No, we can't put him in jail. But we are getting support from the community and the parents, because they see the danger as well.
yes.
Great. So we have seen a decrease in those bikes and the driving behaviors.
Excellent.
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
news, thanks.
Thank you.
Grayson, one of the questions that I got from the Instagram post regarding the bike rules.
Yes, ma'am.
People were just asking for the specific laws that were related to that. Is there a possibility of you being able to share that with city staff to be able to also put that on Instagram or?
So the bikes follow all vehicle code
Yeah.
laws, but I think they're more referring to that $4,000 bike that they bought.
Correct. Yeah.
That's considered an off-highway vehicle.
Okay,
So I have another, we put it up on our Instagram page that shows all the classes of those bikes and what's
that was the
required.
post. Yeah, I shared it and then people came back and asked, can you share this
Yeah,
specific law?
so it's an
with it?"
off-highway
So,
vehicle, a
Okay.
license plate is required,
Yeah,
and a driver's license is required.
okay,
So I can put it up again, I can put some more detail in it.
that would be awesome.
And I think we're gonna be hosting another town hall, so I'm sure that'll be a topic of discussion and
Yeah.
we can
Perfect,
address
that would be great.
Great,
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome,
thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Matt Baker, Finance Director. Don't have a whole lot this evening because we'll be presenting on the budget, so that'll be most of my update. But other than that, I do have some exciting news as far as AV. This is the last meeting under the old AV system, so we have consultants coming out tomorrow for the installation of the new AV system. So Jamie's been working hard on that. So looking forward to the next meeting. Where hopefully people can hear us better in the public and we have some nice features. So
Great.
unless there's any questions.
no,
Good evening, Council and Mayor. David Hart, City Council, excuse my language here. I'm a little tired right now.
what do you do?
Community service. Thank you. You might notice that there's a little bit of construction going on up at Tremont Hall. We're actually putting some asphalt down and some concrete platforms to put our new storage facility up there. So it will be done by this Friday. The concrete slabs will be done. We won't have the containers up there until after the graduation parties, but the slabs will be done. I know some people have come up and asked what's going on up there, if it's going to interfere with the parties. It will not. That work will be done.
Dang.
Was that? We are assisting with the schools on putting up their graduation posters up on the light banners. We really want to thank SCE for allowing us to honor our graduates in this way. Those will be up by Friday. We are currently onboarding our summer staff. Yay! We will be training them for day camp all next week, and we'll be ready to go by June 17th when day camp opens. Sign-ups for day camp is live, and you can sign up on our cityofavalon.com website and just visit the community service page. We'd like to ask you to join us this Friday at 6 p.m. on Wrigley Stage for the first open recital of our Dance Tech program, which is our city dance program. Come and watch our talented kids perform and learn how you can enroll your children in our summer dance camp and fall dance tech program. Don't miss out on this delightful event. This past Wednesday, the city and the Avalon schools teamed up with the LA Rams to hold a Play 60 for our youth up at Joe Machado Field. The Rams started the day by reading their book, Ride with Rampage. Rampage is their mascot, to the elementary school students. One of the sponsors, Princess Cruises, gave away 4 family cruises to 2 teachers, a certified staff member, and a student in her family. The kids were then shuttled up to the school where they met a Rams linebacker, Chris Draft, who was part of the 2000 Super Bowl champs. He gave his story of growing up in LA and dreaming big, and through hard work, having all his dreams come true. The students then participated in 8 full football events for 60 minutes. Everyone from the staff to students had a blast. A special thank you to Play 60's title sponsor, AVP, that's Albertsons Vaughn's Pavilion, especially Brian Riley and his local crew for keeping us hydrated and energized. Princess Cruise Lines for sponsoring and awarding 4 family trips of a lifetime. Catalina Coffee and Cookie Co. for starting our day off right with some tasty coffee. Megan Wright at Cafe Metropole for fueling us back up, providing staff lunches. John Burkham and Circuit for shuttling students to and from the field all day long, back and forth to the school. And we'd like to have a big shout out also to Avalon Schools for partnering with us on this adventure. Last but not least, we'd like to thank Dave Weingarten from the LA Rams Community Outreach Program and his amazing coaching staff. He brought 24 coaches, 4 cheerleaders, and a mascot. And it cost us $0. The Rams paid for it all. They sent everyone over on their own dime. So we really appreciative for them doing that and creating such an amazing experience. Not only for our kids, but the community at large.
And how did that whole Ram thing happen?
Well, there was a time under Loonsberry, the older principal, right before COVID. The Rams had just put out their book, Riding with Rampage, and so they were reaching out to communities, seeing if they can come and read these books to the community. So they were going to come before then to do a read along, for that. I've been calling them every year, 2 to 3 times a year, trying to get Play 60 to come here. Okay. Calling the Chargers, calling the Rams because they're the LA team. So when both teams came here, I started reaching out because I knew Play 60 was a community outreach program. And so when Dave Weingarten got the position, he just got the position last year, so he looked at the request desk and saw my name and the city and the request to come do a Play 60 and gave me a call. He's been coming here for years, him and his family, and it was the first thing on his mind was like, I got to do the Play 60 on Catalina Island. So it was really a nice mixture of everything. Yeah. They love it. If you're able to experience any of this, please give us, send us emails, letting us know your experience in it, so that way we can send it out back to the Rams so they get the input from the community, and because they usually skip years when they go to communities, but they loved coming. They love the scenery, they love the field. Yeah. They just had a great time while they were here, so they would love to come back soon. They don't want to wait another year. So if you have any response, please send it to me at dhart@cityofavalon.com, DHART@cityofavalon.com, and I will get it out to the LA Rams. On June 29th and 30th, we are bringing free hunter education course. It will be instructed by a California Fish and Wildlife officer. Again, this is a free course. And within the course, they will be teaching firearm safety and handling, sportsmanship and ethics, wildlife management and conservation, game care, wildlife identification, first aid, and survival. For more information, go to the City of Avalon website and visit the community service page. Sign up now because space is limited. We plan on doing this a couple times a year, and then hopefully maybe even branch out into more firearms and archery through the California Wildlife. It's absolutely free because they have a grant. They have to give out these educational courses.
What's the
So they
age?
chose us. What was that?
The age?
14 and above.
Okay. Great.
And that's all I have. Do we have any questions?
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
Is it possible to put something in the newspaper about our 4th of July theme?
Yes, I will put one
We're
out
like a
tomorrow.
month away,
I know,
it's like-
yes.
it's like here, I know. So anyway.
We
can-
put it out on our social media pages,
Yeah.
and so I'll get something out
Yeah,
in
some of
the
us old
newspaper.
timers might not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
No
thanks,
worries.
Dave. Hey.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Jocelyn Francis, Assistant City Manager. For the month of May, I have some statistics from our code enforcement team. They issued 312 citations, 20 red tags. They responded to 35 animal control complaints, backed up 20 emergency calls for service, 10 public nuisance complaints were completed, and so much more, of course. We haven't scheduled a date yet, but we are working on hosting another hazardous waste drop-off event in the fall, most likely in September, maybe early October. More to come on that. As a reminder, we have a classification and compensation study RFP posted, open right now. Proposals are due June 18th, so just a reminder on that. And then I have nothing definitive yet, but I just want you to all be aware that code enforcement, myself, the Humane Society, Dr. Denny's office, LA County departments and nonprofits were working together to try and bring back a program for a low-cost vaccination clinic for animals, and start a voucher program for spay and neutering. So it's a priority for us right now, so just more to come as we work through the logistics on that, so.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Then we
thank
can capture the squirrels and do whatever, neuter them and spay them, right? That's the biggest problem we have is sometimes squirrels. Okay, never mind. Okay, thank you.
You're going after squirrels?
Go play golf and break your
Oh,
ankle
well, you
trying to walk.
golf. Okay, golf, all right.
You gotta watch out for Val and me. Okay. Oh, go ahead, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. We had today, we had the United States Bureau of Reclamation on the island, both their staff from California and Denver. Many of them, if not most of them, it was their first trip to the island. They met here, Southern California Edison led up the charge, so thank you to Luke for putting that together. We met them out at the wastewater treatment plant. Thanks to Bob Greenlaw and Jackie Cordero for going out there. We were out there, met with them, explained how we move water out here, both with the city and with Edison. They're here all day today, and they're also they're going to be here tomorrow and going into the interior to view Edison's water system from the reservoir all the way down. They gave us some great insight on some grant opportunities that are available this year. we're excited about that. We think we have some projects teed up that we can just need to do a little more work on to get an application in for that funding. So that was great to have them. Anytime we can have federal officials on the island looking at what we're, and they get all excited about that stuff. You know, you're up there at the wastewater treatment plant. That's their world. They're into it. Just want to comment briefly on what was already been mentioned regarding the wine mixer. It was a significant improvement over last year. I want to thank the Island Company and their team for their willingness to sit down with us over the last several months, ever since last year, and talk through the changes that have to be made. They made those. We saw a vast improvement from where we were last year, so thank you to them. Last Thursday, Friday, Devin Hart, Bob Greenlaw, and myself met with all the business owners on the one side down at the elbow to talk about how it's been working after about 2.5 weeks of the changes down there. Got their concerns, their suggestions. For the most part, I would say it's significantly positive. A few of them had some concerns about the placement of the new crosswalk that we put in there. So if you went down there today, you would have seen the crosswalk's wider, which is to get across the street, which is what they wanted. But I think the second part is what we have in front of you tonight as far as legislation, which is really to spend some money still on this testing process of what that would look like, to make that a straight shot from the mole when you're coming down that sidewalk to go directly across, straight shot coming across it, as compared to kind of going around the building, around the ATM to find the crosswalk. It's pretty hidden right now, and that's not the intent. We want to make it a straight shot so you see it all the way down. It's natural course of pedestrian movement. And really that palapa that is there that we would have to remove, nobody really uses it because it's difficult to get to. It's out of the way. We think that can be a much better system to use. So we'd like to do that as part of this test. It's what the majority of the business owners wanted, and we think that's a good idea. The other part is the access point between where the circular areas right now in the golf cart shop, that's going to be widened another 6 feet. So right now it's 18 feet, it'll ultimately be 24 feet. We see the need for that. So I just want to thank the business owners for taking the time to meet us down there, share their concerns. They were very open to the idea. Generally, they're positive about it, and I think we can capture their other concerns. So I know Bob will have some more conversation with that when that legislative item comes up. And then finally, I just want to, and I'll go to the podium, talk about circuit. We finished May, so now we have 2 months in. A little less than 2 months, but May was our first full month. So I don't know, Matt, if I have this or if you still have this, we can move one slide forward. Okay, thank you. So you'll see that here we have both April and May. So right now where we stand, we're 43 days since the program's hard launch. Our numbers in April were 4,083 passengers, which was a 30% increase where we were before, and then May, with the first full month, was 7,147 passengers. We go to the next slide. You can see where this April ridership comparison looks as compared to a 6-year look back to 2019. So over that period of time, the largest April we had was 2022, 3,321 passengers, and we did 4,083 in a partial month of April. And now when you go to May, in the next slide, we did the previous largest May ever that we have recorded was 3,411. Again, in 2022, we did 7,147, so doubled the previous May high. And next slide. Just want to point out that the highest month we've ever recorded was in 2019, July of 2019, 7,418 passengers on public transportation. So we were just 300, less than 300 behind for May of this year, in our first full month of operation. So we're confident that if we don't get that number in June, we'll certainly get it in July. Again, as we go to the next, you'll see the daily passenger count for the month of May. And I just want to point out our lowest passenger number for a daily count was 152 on May 9th. The prior Mays, our average for the entire month was 110 for an average. So we were 40 passengers above, our lowest day above our average. Again, all the metrics, all the numbers are showing, a great improvement from where we were. Next slide, Matt. So the number of passengers per service day, again, you can see this is pretty consistent where we were in April. 3 biggest days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But everything is pretty consistent. Thursday is the only one below 900, and that's really just cruise ship driven. And then the number of passengers per service hour, I want to draw your attention to the 7 a.m., 8 a.m. hours. You can see that for the month of May, we moved, between the 200 and 400. So we're right around 300, just a little above 300 for the 7 a.m. hour. This is significant because of any complaints that we're getting, this is where we're getting complaints, of the people that are wanting to get to the 7:50 boat in the morning. We're working on some answers to this, but so the average, or what we moved was a little over 300. That works out to be about 10 passengers per day for that hour. And if you think about it, Coast comes on, they get in at 6:30 a.m., they clean the vehicles, they get them ready, they put them on service at 7 a.m. right on the nose. At that time, we have a boat arriving, and then people trying to get to the 7:50. So we have that hour where all of a sudden they get bombarded with a request and an increase for demand. We're moving 300 people for the month of May. Prior to that, we averaged 52 for that hour, that 7 to 8 a.m. hour. So we're moving 6 times as many people, and it's still not enough. And we know that, right? I mean, the boat coming in and the boat leaving, the number of people that want to get on that boat. So there's a couple things we're looking at doing, and maybe for that first hour going to a ride, a loop, where we will stop at designated spots, Hamilton Cove, the bottom of the hill at Whitley, and stop at certain spots to get people, first thing in the morning, get people that are going to the boat, drop them off at the boat, and then the people that are arriving being able to take them to their location. So we have meetings with Circuit later this week to see if we can't come up with a solution to that problem, because we do realize that is the one hot button issue that we're seeing from some people that have some concerns with the system.
And how many buses are on at 7 a.m.?
At 7 a.m. right now, we have 2. We have the ability to ramp up as the season progresses. We've added additional vehicles during peak hours that we've seen over the last several weeks, both with the Wine Mixer and Memorial Weekend and with cruise ships. But one of the things that we're talking about doing is the initial deploy of the van instead of the green in the first hour.
Right.
To try to address that. Now, we get that. We get that that's an issue, but Dial-A-Ride, was averaging, when we looked at the Dial-A-Ride statistics, they were averaging 1.6 passengers per hour in that hour, and we're at 10.
Yeah.
We could go to 50, and I still think we're going to have people saying, I tried to get on and I couldn't get a ride. I mean, it's out there. Coast is out there. The vehicles are more attractive. They're more interesting. People are using it. The demand is higher. We get it. But because of that, really what we feel that we've done is kind of taken this, private, that nobody really knew about transportation system, where people could call at 7 o'clock and get picked up because nobody else was using it and get their ride, to one that's being demanded. So we have to make it work, and we're committed to doing that. So we're going to try some different things out here over the next, starting hopefully quick. And Circuit's been pretty quick to react to us. They've made changes. We've made changes as we've gone along. So it's been great working with them. And then just the final, I want to point out we're moving twice as many people. And the next slide here, Matt, is we're doing it for significantly less money. So the April 24 cost versus the April 23 cost, you can see that 73,000 to 49,000, moving twice as many people in a better ride experience, we feel. So we think that it's working, and I keep reminding people that complain that it's public transportation. These funds come from LA County. They're provided for LA County to move LA County residents. It's not just for Avalon residents. For tourists, it's visitors, it's cruise ship passengers, it's everybody that comes here. We certainly want it to work for our residents, and we're going to make that happen. But again, it's public transportation. It's to work in concert with the taxi service, which is still in business. If you feel you can't trust that you're going to get a ride at 7:15 in the morning, then call the taxi or make other arrangements until we keep working on this and make something that works for everybody. Any questions?
Go ahead. Is there, I've mentioned this several times, so just curious, is it possible to get the schedule function on that app?
To get the schedule where you can book it ahead of time?
Yeah, because, if, I think it would work out for the drivers and for Circuit, as well as people trying to get to and from the boat. If they knew at 6:30 in the morning when they come in to clean their vehicles and all that stuff, if they look and they're like, oh my gosh, look at all these people that have scheduled. We need this many people, we need this many drivers, not just 2, we need more, or the vans or something.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to work out with them, because we think that that's the issue, is that first 7 to 8 a.m. hour. So that's what we're trying to work out with them, and those are the conversations. The scheduling becomes difficult. It became difficult with our last contractor too. I mean, that was the number one complaint we had, is I tried to schedule it and they told me they were booked or they wouldn't answer the phone. And we're really trying to push everybody to the app with Circuit, because the phone calls do not go to anybody locally. It's going to a phone bank somewhere way off-site. They're not familiar with what we have going on. So we're trying to get people that the app is the most responsive. People that are learning the system are learning to make their call on the app, make the request on the app prior to 7, and they're getting picked up. It's difficult, because when you hit the app and you see the dial spinning, at some point you have to pull the plug and say, I have to get to the boat, I have to make it, because you don't know. And it's that uncertainty we're trying to fix. So we're trying to create a certain system, and maybe having this loop where every morning at 7 o'clock the bus is going to be at the top of the hill at Hamilton Cove to pick you up. If you want to get on it, it's going to be there. Every morning at 7:10 it's going to be at the roundabout down at the end of East Whitley. So we're trying to work with some things on that, because otherwise, even if you book it, there's still going to be people that are going to get shut out.
Right. So, utilize one of the big vans for that, start out at Hamilton and come in and around all that
Right.
stuff. But I still really think that for just overall scheduling purposes, I really feel that, because I use Yellow Taxi and Lyft and Uber and all that stuff, and I always, if I have a close connection, I schedule, pick me up when I come in on the boat, Yellow Cab, and all this kind of stuff. And so I think it really helps with their dispatchers, to help with the routing of what's going on, and you can see exactly how many people. I just really feel that it's an important piece of an app-based business.
Yeah, and we do understand that. And the one thing, and it's something we talked about, we rolled it out as the idea that it's similar to Uber in that you use an app and you make a call, but where it's not similar is we don't have 1,000 drivers. We have
Right.
2 or 3 vehicles that are out there. It's not that unlimited number where you can say, I want this one or that one. So 43 months or 43 days in, we're still changing, and we'll fix this.
I appreciate it. I know, I personally love it, and I know that there's kinks, and with
Yeah.
any kind of brand-new system, when you roll it out, there's kinks. So,
Right.
I appreciate Circuit and you and the staff and everybody working on this, and just hopefully we can iron this out.
Yeah, agree. Any other questions?
I was just gonna say, if the major concern is that it's too much usage, I think that's actually a good problem to have. So it's better than before where there wasn't enough usage, right? So this makes way more sense. It's paying for itself clearly, just in terms of savings, also looking at month to month. One of the drivers' feedbacks, I took it again this month just to see how it was going, and their feedback was the same of bringing on extra drivers.
Right.
That right now it's still 2 people per shift usually, and so it's clear that the ramifications of the popularity are increasing over the amount that the drivers can handle right now. So I feel like that's also a pretty easy fix too. So.
Yeah, and I should say that what we're doing with the savings that we showed you, since those funds are coming in, we're earmarking those funds to purchase
Repairs
additional
and-
vehicles.
yeah, exactly.
Right, so we see that this is gonna ramp up, and we see that they're gonna have to have more drivers, and we're gonna have to have more vehicles, and, you know, if it keeps additional golf carts off the road and it moves people, we know we're moving people. We're moving people twice as fast as, or twice as many as we did last year, so.
If it would keep people that live like far away from downtown or they perceive themselves to live far away from town, if they wouldn't bring their vehicles down and park them, they could just grab this and,
Right.
and no fuss no less.
Yeah, are we seeing any, has anybody, is code enforcement watching, I mean, have we seen any kind of change in behavior as far as the people parking on Lower Descanso and Clarissa?
I would think that we would have to, because I see it on Upper and Middle Terrace quite a bit. I see the green vehicles, and I see them going up Whitley and up to the,
Okay.
kind of the remote areas quite often.
Okay,
Yeah,
But I don't know that we have any necessarily any data down there to show that, but
Just
we can
curious.
ask.
yeah. Great.
cool.
And I just wanted to say, I've had numerous guests who already use Circuit on the mainland, so they're already into it, and all they have to do is put in what they're looking for. But yeah, I think it's going great.
I was only gonna suggest from using Uber and Lyft, when you do try to order it, it gives you the estimated arrival and drop off. So if we could do something like that instead, where they'll realize they're not gonna make it, would eliminate some sort of issue.
Right.
Because it does say we'll pick you up in 2 minutes, or it does say that,
Yeah, it
It
does
does.
let you know.
but
But it's never accurate.
Yeah.
Every time I've used it, it says driver will be there in 1 minute, and it's like 10.
Yeah.
So if you're in that situation, trying to get to the boat, and you think, oh, great, he's gonna be here in 1 minute, and then, because you know, if it's crunch time to get to the boat, the difference between 1 minute and 10 minutes is huge.
Right.
right.
And if you ride it, if you request it, you can have an option to share a ride. So you're sharing it with somebody else, but if they pick somebody else up first and they don't request share a ride, and you're second, you're not gonna get your ride. That's also something we're trying to look
Why
at.
do we have to share it? I mean, why can't we say just everybody shares?
I haven't seen that up. It just
Yeah,
says how many
it's-
riders, and I just say 2.
Right, but when, for example, I took it on Sunday, and somebody else was getting on, they said, are you okay sharing the ride? I said, sure. So they added some other people going to a nearby location, and we all took the same vehicle,
Yeah.
but you don't have to say sure. If it's your ride and you've booked it, they
Oh, I
won't.
disagree. We need to change that, because if it's public transportation,
It's pub- yeah.
I'm sorry, a bus, everybody gets on the bus, and the wheels go round and round.
So maybe that could be a discussion with them as well.
Yep.
Yeah. I did find that one of the gentlemen picked me up the other day, and we went around, it's interesting. So you can, for $6, you can kind of get it for yourself, is what he was telling me.
What?
Yeah, so.
If you buy out 5 passengers, the max.
Well,
cost
$6 is the
I think
max.
Yeah, $6, and then,
Yeah, if you, anything over 3 people, it doesn't go up more than 6. You can have
Yeah,
4 or 5, it's still
exactly,
gonna be 6.
exactly, yeah,
Right.
which, heck, that's just $2 per person.
Okay.
And
Thank
so what,
you.
this person would book it for 6 people?
Well, I
Just
just
so
paid
you
you
could have the whole thing.
$6, and I get the whole thing to myself. for that
Then you
matter.
wouldn't have to share. 'Cause you
You
bought
wouldn't have
all
to
the
share it
seats.
because you bought the seats out.
Oh, my goodness
I know,
gracious.
but then it looks terrible going down the street with only one person.
What's the point of that?
So anyway, great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, council members. Oh, city attorney, where are you?
Nothing tonight. I'm waiting for the ordinance discussion. Thanks.
What the heck you say?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay, moving right along. Council members.
I guess I'll go first. First of all, shout out to Chief, thank you so much. I did the Stop the Bleed thing here when the city had it, and Chief told me that they were gonna be getting more kits and stuff like that, so they actually went out to Edison and trained everybody out there, and we have kits that are now in place on site at the plant and also in the vehicles. So that is really cool, so thank you so much for following up and making that happen.
Very cool.
So we're all gonna be really good. We're gonna stop the bleed. If you cut your arm off, you're good.
You're ready for it.
So I attended a couple of webinars online. One was about AB 2560, and it's about affordable housing and some loopholes that they're trying to put in there where they're waiving a lot of regulations. So there's some giant building that can go out on the coast. And even though it doesn't really affect us because we're limited in our land use and all that kind of stuff, you know, I just threw my hat in the ring for support for these coastal cities. And a lot of it was more focused on affordable housing, and the cities were really complaining that, you know, rents just keep going sky high, and so there's a lot of movement afoot, and I'm keeping in touch with these people, and hopefully I can glean something from what they're going through and what they're working on to try and figure out how to stabilize and then maybe make help ours come down a little bit, because you know they just it's people just, you just can't afford to live anywhere. It's not California even, it's Washington, it's everywhere. It's nuts. So
And just an FYI on the one project that you were talking about, they have pulled their project.
Oh, thank
completely.
God.
They have, yeah, the thing that they were gonna do in the Sunset District
Oh.
in San Francisco, completely pulled.
it's absolutely
Not gonna
ridiculous.
happen.
Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, so so that was really interesting. So I'll keep in touch with those guys and see what we can do to get some relief here. And then another one was on community health profiles, like Jason was talking about that on his presentation. So I thought, well, this is interesting, just to see what kind of factors, because LA Department of Health is gathering data, and they're finding out what's contributing to different areas and how you can kind of skew your health care and all that kind of stuff. So I was really excited about that one, but then I got really disappointed because it's got LA County on their map, you know, with all the statistics and everything. And so here's the island, you know, it's got color, but you click on it and nothing happens. It's like, what? You don't have any data. So I've emailed and said, brought that to their attention. So I'll definitely follow up on that too, because I do find that area rather interesting. And lastly, shout out to Jim. The Taste of Avalon was fun. I always have a good time doing that. You see a lot of people come out and all that kind of stuff, but yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, and shout out to Mi Casita.
That's good stuff, huh?
They were delish. Their birria taco was fabulous.
That's awesome.
Yesenia?
So we're working on organizing a debrief for the resource fair, and we have a date, so we'll be doing that June 18th. And then after, we'll start planning the process for the next community resource fair. And then we're still in the process of organizing the breast cancer awareness event, but we are looking into possibly doing it in September. I have Contract Cities tomorrow. And I also attended the Avalon School art students at the Catalina Island Museum. That was amazing. And then I also attended the school's community workshop yesterday, along with city staff, alumni, parents, and a lot of school staff. It was a productive workshop. They have the next one planned already, so it's June 27th, but they haven't given us a time yet. But it was exciting to see the effective dialogue that was being had. I think with this positive momentum, we'll be able to implement and accomplish our goals. Yeah.
I have nothing, but I just want to wish my nephew Sammy a happy 25th birthday.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Sam. I attended the Yacht Club opening on May 25th. Yeah, thank you. It was it's their 100th anniversary this year. So if you see members of the Yacht Club, please do wish them a happy 100 years. So if you heard any of the cannon booms on Saturday, that's what that was a part of. But it was quite nice, attended with Harbor Master Oren Karstarfin and a number of community members as well. And then attended the school community workshop as well last night, which I was really appreciative to the school staff for putting it together. Thankful for the number of community members that showed up, and really proud of the number of city staff members that showed up. I was pleasantly surprised. I think we, as city staff, city employees, all do a really great job of interacting in the community in addition to our roles, which are already so significant. But was thankful to see so many of you up there and wanting to both get support for your kids and ensure that they have a safe and fun experience while they're going to school, as much as fun as they can have, of course. So yeah, looking forward to the next one on the 27th and hoping that a lot of the ideas that came out of that, it was a discussion of kind of hopes from what we want to see the school look like, how the community can help interact with the school, and what the community does well already to do that. And just looking at the challenges to try to really hone in on exactly what has to change to make it work. Excited for graduation on Thursday, June 13th, and I saw the school just posted a whole list of events coming up over the next 2 weeks or so, in between awards nights, senior night, the sports awards nights, and then all of the different graduations, promotions, and things like that. So take a look at that if you will. It's on their Facebook page for sure, and I think their Instagram as well. The event that I'm really excited for coming up is Pride on the 15th, so I know we're going to talk about that in just a second, but happy Pride Month to everyone. And then I have Gateway Cities COG tomorrow, and we'll also have a second meeting on June 26th since there is not a July meeting this summer. And then last but not least, just wanted to say thank you to the LA Rams, to the school, and to Dave Hart and the Recreation Department. I got a chance to go hang out for a little bit and help drive some people around. I never thought I would have a Ram in my golf cart, but I did. Rampage the Ram was awesome, super, super sweet, and excited to be here, and gave us some great connections to kind of reach out to their legislative outreach team as well. And so between them, Vaughn's and Albertsons, who just gave so much for the day, Princess Cruise Lines, Cookie Company, the restaurants, I know they, Megan helped out with that, and then also hit up Topside afterward as well. And then to everyone who did transportation. It was a really great event. It was so much fun to see every single kiddo engaged, having fun. They got to do drills, they got to do cheerleading, they got to just, their DJ was phenomenal the whole day. That was so much fun just to have music playing up there the whole day. It was a really great event and got everyone outside for a little bit and got them to just let all the wiggles out and then some. So really hoping that everyone enjoyed it, but great times. And if there's a program like that for the MLB, I would totally be down for that. I will volunteer for the day. Thank you.
Okay. I'm very happy to announce that we have 11 applicants for the Plan Commission, and Mayor Pro Tem is going to be joining me and Kelly. We have one tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and the rest of them will be on Thursday. So we're looking forward to interviewing those. We have some that will be returning, and a number of new applicants. That's all I have.
I forgot to mention, if I could, on this Sunday, June 9th, there's a golf tournament benefit for Ave Montano's little boy Benjamin, who's fighting his life off with cancer, really bad cancer. Poor little kid, I feel so bad for him. So it's $70 per person, which includes the greens fees. So check in by 1:30, and then there's a potluck after party at the top side with live music by the Isleños and raffle tickets and everything like that. So even if you're not a golfer, I would encourage people to please go to the top side and do what we can to pitch in and help this poor little guy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Did you want to do this now?
So I'm going to read a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Avalon, recognizing the month of June as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. Whereas Pride Month recognizes the impact of the LGBTQIA+ community historically, locally, nationally, and globally. And whereas we stand together with the LGBTQIA+ community of Avalon as they declare their pride in who they are and whom they love, not only at the Pride celebration on June 15th, 2024, but every day. And whereas all people, regardless of sexuality, gender identity, age, ability, race, religion, marital status, national origin, or physical challenges, have the right to feel safe in their community, not to be discriminated against, and to live without the threat of harassment. And whereas the diverse LGBTQIA+ community continues to contribute to the widespread academic, economic, artistic, and social sphere within and around the greater community. And whereas this nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, and the City of Avalon call upon the people of this municipality to embrace this principle and to work to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists, and whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for Avalon's LGBTQIA+ community, and is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Avalon declares the month of June 2024 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, and urges residents to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and to actively promote the principles of equality, liberty, and justice. Dated this 4th day of June, 2024.
Very nice, thank you. Okay, oral communication. This is an opportunity for people in the audience to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You will be limited to 2 minutes, and no action will be taken.
Good evening. If I may make a comment first off in response to the proclamation. The importance of celebrating Pride has been driven home for me this year, in particular, due to a significant uptick in the anti-LGBTQ IA+ rhetoric being circulated online, in the news, and sadly into my inbox and phone lines. I thank you as our city leaders for being on the right side of history, the right side of the issue, and for embracing an important segment of your community and the visitors who come here in such a welcoming way. If a member of the community or visitor is somehow put off by an annual one-day celebration on the island, then I would ask them to simply avoid the festivities for that day, and to allow those of us who wish to celebrate to do so freely and happily. On the other side of the issue, I have been touched by many members of the community who have felt the need to share with me that they have a member of their family or friends who have been the victims of some of that same hatred this year. And so that gives me the resolve, even more so, to celebrate on June 15th and to do so with all of you and with dignity and with pride.
Thank you.
And if I still have some time left, I just wanted to read off all the winners of Taste Around Avalon and congratulate them publicly. The best taste for drink with alcohol, as Mary mentioned, one of her favorites was Mi Casita for the Cafe de Olla Martini and the Spicy Pineapple Margarita. Second place in that category was Blue Water Avalon for the Coconut Margarita. Third in that category was Maggie's Blue Rose for the Mangonada Paleta Margarita. The best taste for drink with no alcohol, first place went to Catalina Island Brewhouse for their Sparkling Lavender Lemonade. They're a 2-year placeholder in that category. Second to Cafe Metropole for the Green Pier, also a 2-year placeholder in that category. Third was a tie for Avalon Grill with the Golden Euphoria Mule and Original Antonio's with the Jamaica Soda. And can I finish, or am I out of time?
Sure.
Okay. The best taste
Just give us the first place winners.
Okay. Best taste for food was Mi Casita again for both the shrimp and birria tacos and with the pineapple salsa. And the best taste of dessert was Sailor's Delight for the Mackinac Island Fudge Sundae, which is now a 3-year placeholder in that position. So, thank you to all who participated.
Thank you. And do we have anybody? Okay. All right.
Wait, no,
we-
no, Paul's coming.
Oh, I'm sorry about Paul.
He hasn't been here, did
I
you
know.
forget?
I know.
Long way around. Hello, Paul Birchall, Avalon Library. Avalon Library, of course, is going to be celebrating Pride as well. On Saturday the 15th, we'll have a variety of crafts, including a Pride origami folding box, decorate your own Elton John sunglasses, and create your own Pride flag. I couldn't get my bosses to okay the RuPaul drag queen stick puppet dolls. Maybe next year we'll work on that. It's also the most important time of the year at the library. It's the Summer Discovery Program, which started on the 1st. Kids in school, when they get out of school, if they don't read, they're going to have a much harder time when school starts up in the fall. The Summer Discovery Program is here to get people reading all summer long. Come on in. I've got a lot of free books. I have a little game card you fill out. Read 3 books, get a prize. We're also going to do a whole bunch of alluring and attractive activities to get people to come on into the library. Going to be making a sensory cube for really young people on the 13th. A succulent sand terrarium for teenagers. And coming up, let's see, make a Hmong Podge Tob embroidered decoration from, I believe, Cambodia. I have to watch the video to learn how to do that, I'm afraid, but that's coming up on the 21st. Coming up in July, we're going to have the Billy Bonkers Magic Show as a special Summer Discovery Program event, followed by art creation with Barnsdale Art, which I really, really love having them. They teach art courses in the Hollywood Hills, and I love having them out here, and they do a tremendous art show. While I'm on the topic, I also want to plug our book club. End credits this month. This is a novel written by a former writer on the David Letterman show, I believe, about Romana Clef, about her experiences breaking the glass ceiling. And the month following, we're going to be participating in the One County, One Book Club. All libraries in LA County are reading this book for either June, July, and August, and I've decided that's going to be our July book club pick. There's going to be a lot of virtual programs with LA County that are going to promote this book with author talks and things like that. Other libraries, they're holding a big event in Grant Park, and they're bringing buses down, and you can go to the Grant Park and meet the author. Do we get to do that? Alas, no.
No.
I asked if they'd pay for the boat ticket. They said no.
No.
That's a hard no.
Okay.
But it's going to be streamed, and it should be really good. I'm looking forward to reading this book. That's going to be July's book club pick.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of the programs are sponsored by our Friends of the Library group.
Yes.
Thank you, and thank you for supporting them at the art fair a few
Yes.
months back. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Okay. To presentations.
I think Matt's bringing that up. So, as has been our practice for just a little over a year now, we're coming to you quarterly with an update on our tourism promotion efforts, looking back tonight at the first quarter of 2024. We all know the weather sucked, and so that definitely took a toll on some of the effectiveness of our efforts, but nonetheless, we wanted to share what we've done to try and overcome that and to bring people here throughout the rest of the year, and we'll start off with the video. Looking forward to that new system.
In Q1, we had over 160,000 visitors. We saw lower visitation than PR team did amazing work this quarter with 210 pieces of coverage with a combined reach of 11.6 million. That's a 71% increase from Q4 of 2023. Hits were secured across a wide range of media platforms. And our social media game was on fire this quarter, with all major social platforms seeing a great influx of followers. Our Instagram took a big jump with a 28% increase. People have been extremely interested in Catalina lately. It might be due to our new Castaway campaign. Through energetic scenes that show the island in motion and the use of a custom track made by performer and songwriter Taimani, we get potential visitors excited for the freedom of escape. Or our Castaway Boat and Hotel creative, which became a natural extension of this campaign. Let's talk media metrics. Our programmatic and social campaigns generated over 16 million impressions. That's double the amount of impressions generated in Q4 of 2023. Our combined click-through rate on social and programmatic exceeded industry benchmarks this quarter, as well as leading to over 750,000 social engagements. We sent out 2 Visit California emails this January and March, both receiving over a 50% open rate. These stats are consistent with our previous Visit California emails, being a great achievement in terms of reach. Altogether, we've been able to reach out to a wide audience this quarter, and this can be seen reflected in our website metrics, which total to over 280,000 unique users, 60,000 more than Q4 of 2023. We had the pleasure of having professional photographer Simply Smith on Island in March to come and capture the beauty of the island. Everything from biking to the botanical gardens, capturing images of the good vibes on Catalina Island. Although our visitor center walk-ins were flat compared to Q4 in 2023, our new visitor guide for 2024 launched in January, which resulted in a massive peak in interest. With all that being said, as we wrap up this first quarter and look ahead to 2024, it sure seems like it's going to be an amazing year for Catalina Island. We would raise a buffalo milk to Q1 success, but we know there's so much more success to be found throughout the rest of this year and further. Has been flying by faster than.
There we go. All right, I've also passed out for you, and there's some over here for anyone in the audience who'd like to see them, the quarterly one sheet that encapsulates all of that and even a little more detail. And with that, I'm open to any questions, comments, or suggestions.
I have a question. We were doing the voting for best places and all of that. Was it USA Today?
USA Today.
I know we ended up in third, but who did win the?
Mackinac Island.
Okay.
Ended up in #1, yeah. Third is pretty respectable nationwide.
And especially since we were the only California location,
destination,
so.
yeah. So.
Yeah, and a couple weeks ago, the island was all over Channel 5 News. Megan was everywhere, all over the island.
Yeah, that was a co-op program the Island Company worked out with KTLA. We always get so much more whenever any one island entity partners with KTLA, because there's a lot of affection for the island in that morning crew. Including calling out Val pretty frequently on air by Mr. DiCarlo. So it was a nice little shot in the arm.
Yeah, I thought a lot. Who's the video you just showed us? Who else sees that besides us?
It is shared with our board. It goes in our member newsletter, and it is archived on our website, and it's indexed for Google search, so it can be found by anyone who chooses to go looking for it.
Excellent.
It's nice to see 8 new members. That was that's a strong amount of new members for a quarter.
It's a strong amount of new members, especially for late in
Yeah.
our, people often look at that partial year dues and think, oh, I'll just wait, but people are still joining, yeah.
That's great.
All right, no further questions? Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
All right, Matt Baker, you're up.
Good evening again, Council. Matt Baker, Finance Director. Wanted to start by sharing with you and the public a draft of the budget. I emailed all the members of Council before the meeting a copy, and I will have available of this draft of the budget on our website tomorrow morning. Again, I do want to emphasize it still is a draft. We will be presenting a final version of this document on the June 18th meeting for adoption. So there is still opportunity to take public input from council, input from city staff, and incorporate those changes in the final version. Not a whole lot has changed from the previous drafts of the versions that were shared at prior meetings. But just to kind of allow you to orient yourself with this document, the next page of it is the table of contents, and it's all hyperlinked to allow for kind of an ease of access. The first section, the budget message, if you're only going to look at one section, this is probably the one that makes the most sense for the average reader. And what I tried to do is come up with more of a narrative going over the budgeted revenues and expenditures. There's some highlights as far as revenue trends since pre-COVID, sales tax trends, and a lot of this I'm going to get into on the presentation. But really the goal of kind of this section of the document is to provide an overview of the budget itself. If you go back to the table of contents, the other areas, if you have questions kind of more general on the budget process, there is a budget overview which explains how we develop our budget, and it also provides a breakdown of what the different funds are and what they mean. So there's some resources for anyone who's interested in learning more about the budget. Those are kind of the two areas I would suggest starting with. The other big change from prior year's budgets is I've kind of made some changes to the capital improvement section of the budget, and the goal is to try to make it a little easier to digest. Previously, we would have 60 to 80 projects, one after another, and it can be difficult from staff's perspective to work through it. And so what I tried to do is break it up into more kind of manageable sections. So if you wanted to review, for example, just the capital works projects related to the fire department, there is a section within the budget document that just pulls out the fire department vehicles. So we've tried to group it up to different sections to make it a little easier for the public and council to read and digest. But again, this is a living document, so if there are suggestions you have that would make the document easier to read and follow, or members of the public have suggestions, I'm happy to hear those as well. So with that, I'm going to move into the actual presentation. And again, I'll have this version of the budget available on the finance page tomorrow, just emphasizing again, it still is a draft. So this is the appropriations schedule, and so this is a combination of all the different funds. I generally don't show the information in the budget to you this way because how fund accounting works, each fund has its own kind of restricted purpose for how the monies can be spent. So it doesn't really make sense in a lot of ways to discuss the whole numbers. But if somebody wanted to know how much is the city's overall budget, the answer I would give them is 65.7 million. And so that is the operating budget, the capital outlays, the transfers, and the appropriations. And again, the one caveat I'll say with the capital outlays, while I do expect there to be a lot more capital spend in this upcoming year's budget than in the current year's budget, we had 24 million in the capital budget for last fiscal year. And year to date, I think we've spent less than 4 million on capital projects. So we do have quite a lot of capital projects. And so any of that unspent money for that year gets rolled into the next year. So of the the 24 million that was in last year's capital budget, close to 20 million of it is essentially getting rolled into the next year, with the others being kind of new projects. So if you were to look at the city as a whole, the budget increase would be 6.1%, and that's also factoring in transfers as well, and I'll go into where those are later. So this is kind of the way you normally would see it, and what I've done is broken it down by the major funds within the city. So again, the general fund, that's our main operating fund, so all the services you generally think of a city, whether that's community services, law enforcement, fire department, those all fall within that general fund. So you can see we have operating revenues of 12.84 million, operating expenditures of 12.46 million, and then a breakdown of what those entail, whether it's salaries, benefits, maintenance and operations. And in maintenance and operations, there would be things like rent, utilities, supplies, things of that nature. Contract services. Within the general fund, kind of the two big ones that are driving that are going to be the law enforcement contract, as well as that's where we group the chamber allocation in that contract service section. So over 3.5 of that 4.4 million would just be those two contracts alone. Internal services, that's how we charge the general fund for finance and the city manager's office time. So finance, for example, does payroll for firefighters and harbor patrol. And so we use the internal service charges to charge those departments for the work that benefits the city as a whole. So kind of moving down the list, the harbor fund, you can see there's operating revenues of 9.2 million and operating expenditures of 8.46. So that's 750,000. That's new monies. Essentially, you can think of it available for capital projects. If you look at the harbor's capital budget, we will be spending every penny of that 750,000 plus what fund balance we have within that fund. Sewer, saltwater, and solid waste, those revenues are driven by our direct assessments that appear on the property tax bills. You can see the sewer fund has operating revenues of 3.3 million with operating expenditures of 2.9 million. And so again, that 400,000, that's monies that's being available then to fund capital maintenance within the sewer fund. Similar with saltwater and solid waste as well. And that net operating revenue really is just going in to then feed into our capital program. So this is a summary of our visitor-driven revenues from fiscal year 1920 to the 25 proposed numbers in this budget. So what you can see with the blue on the bottom, that's what I've done is combined what I consider the visitor-driven revenue. So that's TOT, both from hotels and vacation rentals, plus sales tax, at least the portion of the sales tax the city keeps, and admissions tax. So if you take those three sources, TOT, ad tax, sales tax, that's 75% of our operating revenues in the general fund, with charges for services, ambulance fees, licenses, permits, kind of making up that other, and property tax making up that other 25%. So you can see there's a big peak in fiscal year 22, and we've sort of been leveling off and slightly declining over the next 3 years. I will caveat the peak in 22 is kind of also includes 880,000 from the Rescue Plan, American Rescue Plan Act money. So the decline's not quite as steep as that chart would indicate, because there is nearly $1 million in one-time monies that came in fiscal 22. So then again, this is a breakdown of revenue for TOT by source. So you can see 2/3 of or probably closer to 70% of our TOT comes from our hotels, with the other 30% from vacation rentals. You can see we did have that jump in fiscal 22, and it's been a slight decline ever since. And then the next column or the next chart to the right is our sales tax by group, and I'm really just putting this in to highlight the importance and why I consider sales tax a visitor-driven revenue. Yes, locals do contribute to it, so I do recognize, and I don't want to not give us credit for adding to the sales tax, but you can see 54% is from our restaurants, bars, and restaurants. So most of the sales tax is generated from the businesses that largely serve our visitor base. 17%, our next largest source, is county pools. And so what that is for online sales that don't fit neatly within a particular city. Avalon gets a share of the LA County pool, and for us, it's our second largest kind of source of revenue. So when you are purchasing online, depending on the nature of where that purchase came from, it may come back to the city and the county pool. So the next chart here is a breakdown of our operating expenditures within the general fund, comparing last year's this current year's amended budget, where I estimate this year we're going to finish, and then next year's proposed budget. So you can see in law enforcement, we had an adopted budget or amended budget last year of $2.15 million. So that largely is our law enforcement contract. We do get an additional $160,000 a year in supplemental law enforcement services. That's included within that, but not part of our contract with the county. And so we use those monies for additional deputies on busy weekends, peak season, that sort of thing. So you can see we have a 9.6% increase in the budget for law enforcement. We're still waiting on a final number to present to council. I believe at the next meeting we'll have the contract with the county. So there's a possibility with all the numbers. I try to err on the high side and wait for the actual numbers to come in. So we'll be able to report at the next meeting what the final number is. But right now that's just an estimate, but based on kind of early conversations, I put that as a higher increase, a nearly a 10% increase there. Fire department, you can see a 1.2% increase from last budget. There was some labor savings with the retirement of a more senior personnel that kind of offset some of the normal labor increases year over year. And that's really why that one's more flat relative to some of the others. Public Works is up 18.2%. There's really two factors driving that, and I think I mentioned it at the prior meetings. We kind of did a reorg within the city of where our maintenance workers were classified. Previously, we had 1.9 full-time equivalents within the rec department that were maintenance. We've since moved them to Public Works, and so Public Works now kind of absorbed that. And so that's why there's that increase in Public Works, and you can see a decrease in community services. In addition, there is one new position within the budget, one new FTE, and that's within Public Works for a maintenance lead position. And I believe the intent or the idea is that would be filled internally, but then that would create a maintenance 2 or a maintenance 3 opening as well. Planning, you can see the decrease in planning at 24.7%. I do want to highlight this one as well. Last year in the budget, we had $250,000 in planning documents. So that's anything from our active transportation plan to our annual housing plan. A lot of those often are grant funded. So last year we put in the budget $250,000 in planning documents, but we also had an assumed grant revenue of $200,000. So for a net spend of $50,000. Since we didn't have any specific grants identified this year, what I elected to do is just say $50,000 for planning documents, and we have identified some that we're going to bring to council with that $50,000 for next year. But since we don't have a grant identified, it didn't really make sense to do it as we did last year. And so there's $200,000 less in operating expenditures, but there's also $200,000 less in grant revenue. So that from a budget perspective, really there isn't much of a change from last year. Community services, again, there's some labor savings, but we also did increase our budget for the 4th of July program as well as some of our park maintenance accounts. So if you're going into the weeds and looking there, that's where some of that increase was within community services. Again, chamber marketing, it's all based on what we estimate our TOT revenues at. Last year, we started the year with an estimate of $7 million, but again, this is the amended budget. At mid-year, we put 7.8, I believe, as the kind of revised number, and I think we're going to come in close to that. We'll see what the weather hasn't made me feel better, but I think we'll be relatively close to that. But next year in the budget, we have 7.5 million as our budget number for TOT, and so that's where we're getting that 1.65 million from. That's 22%. And then within the other, there's a number of different smaller funds that kind of fall within that other. That includes our successor administration, and that's probably about 200,000 of that number. Our cemetery fund, as well as our storm drain and a couple other funds make into that number. So then moving to the harbor, you can see it's somewhat similar to the chart I showed with the general fund, you see lower numbers in fiscal 20 and 21. I really should have put a fiscal 19 in there because then you can see the drop and the impact from COVID. But you can see we've largely rebounded from those numbers, and it's really plateaued again within the harbor. The bottom two numbers are going to be our cross-channel wharfage and our nightly moorings. You can see our cross-channel peaked in 22, that blue on the bottom, and it's really leveled off the last 3 years. And the reason I highlight the leveling off and what it means from a revenue standpoint is we charge wharfage on a per passenger basis with a flat amount. So every year with the nightly moorings, we tend to raise them by CPI. Anything that we charge gross receipts, if say the parasail business increases the cost of a ticket, we see an increase in our revenue because it's a percentage of their gross receipts. But with cross-channel and cruise ship wharfage, historically we haven't been raising those every year. And so really what that means is our visitor count has to increase year over year in order to grow our revenue in the harbor. And if you look at cross-channel and cruise ship, that's over half our revenues within the harbor. And so if we're not raising the fee each year, kind of a simple math way to think of it is if our operating costs, say, are going up 5% a year and our visitor count in cross-channel and cruise ship is flat, we need every other revenue to go up 10% just to keep the revenues growing at the same pace as our expenses. And so that is one of the challenges, but one of the positives is if you look at that green, the third kind of color up, that is our cruise ship wharfage. You can see in fiscal year 21, there is no green. That's because that was our full year without any cruise ships to the island. But you can see that's really what's driving that growth in 22, 23, and 24, and 25. So that's really kind of been where we've been seeing the revenue growth within the harbor. Again, there's kind of two reasons for that. One, if you look at our pre-COVID, we were still in the process of escalating our rates. So in fiscal 22, I believe was the first year we were at $5 per passenger, and it's been $5 per passenger the last several years. Why it's still been able to grow is because the number of visitors, cruise ship visitors, has been increasing. And I believe there's I don't have it in this slide, but there's a staff report later tonight that shows it's really not the number of ships that's increasing. We've really, for the last 10 years, had anywhere between 105 and 115 annual visits from cruise ship. Really where the change is the nature of the cruise ships that are visiting. They are larger, they carry more passengers, and so we're seeing a benefit from increased visitors to the island and wharfage. Sure. So if we're at the blue, we're looking at our cross-channel wharfage. And so you can see in fiscal 20, which was a COVID impacted year. Okay, blue is cross-channel wharfage. Red is nightly moorings. Green is cruise ship wharfage. Purple is pier and tideland rentals. And so that's our rent for our facilities on the mole and in the pier. This is a challenge because I am somewhat colorblind. The teal is harbor use fees, and the orange is other harbor revenues, and I believe it's our mooring transfer fees that make up the majority of the other category. And we'll put a copy of the presentation on the website too. So I know it's a little small even for me. So the next slide is a comparison of the current year cruise ship arrivals by month and the number of passengers versus what we have scheduled for next year. So you can see we had 116 arrivals in 24 with 353,000 visitors. June, I used estimates of 100% occupancy. We actually, for the year, are slightly above 100% occupancy on a cruise ship. And again, how you can get over 100% is their counts are based on 2 passengers in a room. So if a family of 3 shared a room together, that's how you could get a scenario with over 100% visitors. And then you can see next year, this is with a 90% visitor count and assuming all of the ships arrive. Typically with the reschedules, we end up finding another date within the week, and even if we lose a couple due to weather, we tend to get a couple added last minute. So usually what we go into the year thinking we're going to get, we usually end up pretty close as far as the number of ships go. Again, I used a 90% occupancy count. Last year we did better than that, and I think there's a good reason to think we may do better than that next year. But why it's still higher is because this does, just from a transparency standpoint, include all of the Firenze ships for 25 as well. I believe there's 10 scheduled in 25. Right now we've only approved the ones in 24, but right now in my budget I am including the 25 ones in those count. Again, if they aren't approved, we can adjust the budget accordingly, but I had included them in my budget. You are, it is going to be the July, yeah, it is the current upcoming fiscal year 24-25 number of arrivals in the month of July, which is 10, and then the number of passengers. On the boat. So there's 10 boats coming in July with about 30,000 passengers on those boats.
I just want to say, I'm sure nobody else listening online can hear what's being discussed, so this probably sounds.
Wait, then Lindsay, come up and ask the question. Can you move the Spanish speaking thing?
I'm trying to figure out how to get that off the.
There we go. See it,
I think
Lindsay?
that's just because no one's talking.
Oh.
Right.
There we go.
There you go.
Well,
It's just saying, Lindsay, the top is, so it's 2023, 24 for the first two columns, how many ships and how many passengers were on those ships. And then it's 2024, 25, so the anticipated for next year. The number of arrivals and the number of passengers per, and it's estimated, as Matt had said, based on the number of people that are on the ship, counting it as 2 people per stateroom. But occasionally we'll see over 100% because you have 3 or more people in that stateroom instead. The wharfage gets charged based on the number of people on the ship, not the number of people that get off the ship. So these numbers don't reflect who actually comes on shore. Usually we're seeing 50 to, I think, 60, maybe 65 on the high end % of people coming off the ship. It's the number of people on the ship total. Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
So this next slide is a graph showing the visitors by mode. And I did borrow this from the Chamber's website, other than I changed the month to show by fiscal year rather than by calendar year. The blue on the bottom is the number of visitors through the cross channel, and I should also say that would include residents as well, but that's number of people arriving through the cross channel carriers, and you can see we did have that peak in 22, but we've really leveled off to kind of near our pre-COVID visitor levels. But that next color up is the red, and that's our cruise ship visitors. So you can see there was a severe impact in the COVID impacted years, including 21, where we have no red in that count. And then you can see really where the growth is in our total visitors. It's really coming from our cruise ship visitors. There's been some growth within the other, and so that would be our nightly mooring and our helicopter, but relative to cross channel and cruise ship, they make up a small percentage of our arriving guests. So then from an operating expense in the harbor, Harbor Public Works is increased by 10.4%. Again, when we reassigned the maintenance personnel, we do charge part of their time to the Harbor Public Works, and so I treated those employees similar to other maintenance workers. And so really that increase in Harbor Public Works is driven by kind of those internal changes. Admins increased by 7.2%. One of the larger increases on the maintenance operating side is the insurance. I put a 20% increase for the harbor's insurance. So, in my time at the city, that's gone from, say, a $60,000 a year cost to over $100,000 in a 6-year period. So, you know, the city's seeing the exact same kind of insurance challenges that a lot of our residents and businesses are seeing as well. Operations, so that's going to be our harbor patrol as well as our dedicated harbor maintenance. There's a 5.5% increase in this year's budget. Harbor capital, 4.7%. So that's our kind of annual capital maintenance. Plus, we do charge a percentage of the harbor master's time and the public works director's time to managing the capital program. Then lastly, fuel dock is a much smaller number since the operations we do contract with a third party, but there's still some testing and permitting as a city we're required to do, and that's what makes up that $25,000. So you can see as a whole, our harbor operating expenditures increased by 7.2%. Then sewer, saltwater, solid waste. I'm not going to go through all of these, but in general, you can see our sewer operating costs increased by 7.4%. That's largely driven by salaries and benefits, and that's that maintenance lead worker. So I treated the lead worker similar to how we treat the maintenance superintendents as far as labor allocation. So both sewer and saltwater did pick up a portion of the lead worker's costs. And you can see our operating costs are going up 7.4%, but in our cost of service study, we do have our rates going up by 2.5%. In the short run, that's not the end of the world, but ideally what we'd like to see is our operating costs kind of going in line with our revenues, because how we're essentially going to have to pay for that difference is either out of the reserves within the sewer fund, or by reducing the planned capital spend within. Similarly, saltwater, we have, I think, a 2.5% increase that we're going to be presenting in the revenues at the next meeting, and our operating costs are going up by 5.2%. And then in solid waste, we've really tried to limit the costs we have. Last year, we reduced some of the labor allocation within solid waste, and you can see our operating costs are only increasing by 2.6%. But we have a lot of planned capital spend, including some capital spend that wasn't in our cost of service study. And so while our operating costs are only increasing by 2.6%, we do need that 7.5% increase that we're going to be asking for to pay for the landfill closure and post-closure costs, as well as the permitting, researching for the height expansion. And then not to steal any thunder from Jocelyn, but if you do look in the capital projects for the other enterprise fund section, you'll see a recycling machine has been included in our capital budget. You know, Jocelyn's been working really hard to get a redemption center, essentially, and she can speak to it better than I can, but that's something we're really excited for. It wasn't a spend, though, that we had planned in our cost of service study, but it's something that council's definitely made clear their desire. So we're excited for that in our capital budget for next year. Internal service funds, again, our general admin increased by 9.1%. There's really no change with elected. There was a legal increase of 9.5%, but I did want to highlight, and I believe I put it in the budget message, this is still well below what our annual spend was in fiscal years 18 and 19. So we're right now budgeting 173, and that's not the whole city attorney budget, that's just for the general city services. But in 18 and 19, we were spending well over 200,000 for that nature of legal services from BB&K. And so while it is going up, I think important to look at it also in the context of kind of historically where we were spending at. Admin's up 16.7%. One of the things that is skewing that is we did change our labor allocations for the city manager and the assistant city manager. Previously, they had, I believe, 10 or 15% of their time charged to the housing fund, and we reduced that to try to preserve the housing funds to the extent we can, as well as our successor agency admin budget was reduced. So we reduced the amount of the city manager and assistant city manager's time that was charged to that fund, with the general admin picking up that difference. And so that is somewhat skewing that increase. The other big change within administration is we do have an IT manager position included in the budget. That doesn't add a head count. We're replacing what was previously an administrative analyst position. but there is some additional cost with the IT manager position. Again, this is a draft budget. I know council has another item before them tonight, approving the job or considering the job description. But right now that number does include that IT manager position. Again, insurance costs, why it's only a 6.5% increase is we did reduce the amount of anticipated litigation spend. I'm always hesitant to do that. But our kind of general liability costs are going up by double digits, but some of that got reduced. But again, we'll, in the next week, if we do have any conversations with Scott there, we need to change that number, I will. But right now, that's why we're not seeing a double-digit increase there, whereas I was planning for it in the harbor. And then vehicle maintenance, that's our garage. And last year, in the original budget we adopted, we had 2 maintenance positions, but what we did during the year is we were assigned a vacant maintenance worker position to a mechanic position, and so now we have 3 mechanics within the harbor, and so that's really how we went from an annual budget of 430 and operating budget to the 540. And so again, with a position, it's not just a salary, there's a lot of additional insurance costs that go with that as well. So then the next section is kind of a list of the major capital outlays. So you can see the big 2 are going to be our Five Corners pedestrian project and our Pebble Beach Road revetment. So again, those are heavily grant funded or grant leverage projects. So you can see, and I do have a correction I need to make. It says 5 million, but it should say 5.3 million in the budget for Five Corners. It's 5.3 in the document itself. I was feeling optimistic, I guess, when I wrote that there. But the good news is it is largely grant funded, and there's some additional funding opportunities we're pursuing with some of our partners in the community for that project as well. Pebble Beach Road riprap repairs, we did get a $2 million earmark. So we're budgeting 2.25 million, but most of that's coming to us through that earmark from, I believe, former Congressman Lowenthal's office. The maintenance yard upgrades, another major project, as well as annual traffic and transportation improvements. And that next year is really where we're looking at kind of elbow projects, kind of falling within that. The City Hall re-roofing, you'll notice on a number of the different categories. The Harbor Master roof is on the budget as well. And so we're trying to take advantage, if we can, of these kind of similar projects in nature and try to do a lot of the roofing repairs, as we've had some leaks within City Hall and plenty of leaks at the Harbor Master building. Leave this. So then kind of moving into vehicle replacement, we're putting, so this year we did buy a new ambulance for $250,000, but we're putting another $250,000 into reserves for the fire department to, hopefully replace another vehicle within there in the next couple of years. Another big purchase within the fire department is the self-contained breathing apparatus. So that's the air equipment when they go into a building. We are pursuing grant funds for both the vehicles as well as for the apparatus, but since we don't have a grant awarded, no monies are budgeted, at least on the granting side. The per capita parks project. So this year there was some paving done up at Joe Machado Field, as well as we purchased some new playground equipment that's going to be going over into Avalon Kids Park. The reason we haven't installed the equipment is in this year's budget we're looking to replace some of the, I don't know the technical term, but the sponge flooring, the surfacing. And so we're looking to replace that before we put in the new equipment, just because it just made more sense from an operation standpoint. The JMF improvements that are in the budget are improving the slide area, as well as setting monies aside for the eventual turf replacement. So fiscal 24, we made the last payment on our borrowing for the field construction, and so now we need to start setting monies aside for when we need to replace that. Other parks improvements is that surfacing I talked about, as well as some new equipment at Machine Gun Park. And then you'll have to go into the detail, but there are quite a number of projects under 50,000 within the general fund. And again, a lot of times with those, it's preliminary design engineering work. And it's important to have that because it makes us much more competitive when we pursue grant funding. If we say we have a project we like, but we don't have the kind of the preliminary engineering done, it doesn't make us competitive with other cities. And so that's why with those projects, it's important to continue to make progress. So with the harbor projects, the big one's going to be Mole Phase 2. I did just get a $2 million check today from Congressman Garcia's earmark, and so definitely grateful for the support we've received on that project. And so you can see we're looking to ramp construction next year, and so this really is a rollover of what we had in the budget for last year, and we'll be coming back to council with more details before we write any of those checks. The next grant-funded project within the harbor is the Club Dock Dinghy Dock Pier replacement. And so that we were successful getting a grant this year with the Department of Boating and Waterways. And that's to replace the pier that's near the clubs, as well as all of the floats that kind of connect and surround to that. And so that is $500,000 with $300,000 in grant funding for a net cost of $200,000 for that project. A lot of money's in the budget next year for green pier repairs, decking, and restrooms. I've kind of combined all the green piers into one just really to save space, but there's 3 separate projects within for that. Float rehabilitation, we've really done a good job at the city over the last 3 or 4 years of having our major floats on a schedule for major refurbishment. And so floats 1 and 2 were the first floats we did on this back in, I believe, fiscal 20. I think it was in the first half of 2019. And so they are up again for that. And so that's the $200,000 there. Again, this year we did floats 4 for just under 100, but there's 2 floats we're hoping to do next year. South Beach Seawall is another project that we're continuing to work as far as design and engineering, as well as pursuing grant funding opportunities. Vehicle replacements for the harbor fleet, Front Street improvements and Casino Way improvements. There are a number of projects. If you go into the capital improvement program in the description section, there's more detail as to what specific projects have been identified within the Casino Way improvement category, if you will. So that could be anything from the serpentine wall to the repairs we've done in the past to the restrooms along Casino Way. But there's more detail within those project detail sheets. The Harbor Master Building, we're looking with that $100,000 to put a new roof. I've been told they're tired of wearing rain jackets inside, so that is in the budget. It was in the budget last year, but just due to timing and a number of things, we weren't able to accomplish it. And so that's rolling into next year's budget, as well as a number of projects under $50,000. So again, other capital outlays for other funds. The Housing Authority, we do have some work we need to do with the retaining wall up at the 206 East Whitley property. I know there's a number of things going on with that property that I believe council's aware, but we do have to do that retaining wall work, I believe, and so it is still in the budget. $850,000 in street administration. That is a major repaving project, so that Bob tells me we'll have the streets looking brand new after that $850,000. So that is in the street administration fund because gas tax funds go to that, but I do want to highlight gas tax funds are going to cover about half of that, with the remainder is going to have to be covered through the general fund. And so if you look in the budget document, you'll see a transfer from the general fund. And that's what that transfer is covering or reflecting. Sewer, nearly $1 million. About half of that is from unspent funds that were in this year's budget that are being rolled forward. There is a more detailed sewer CIP plan, so Bob would be happy to share that with you. Similarly with saltwater, a lot of that is just rollover from unspent funds from this year. Solid waste, there's 2 projects really going into that number. Actually, there's 3, but it's the landfill closure and post-closure, so we are making a contribution of about $320,000. We also have funding for the engineering and permitting related to the height expansion. I think at the last meeting I mentioned If we're able to do that in phases with this new method, it would result in considerable savings. And it also could result in potentially, I hesitate to say it because a lot could still happen, but reductions in the required amounts to annually contribute, because if it were to extend the life of the landfill, that would buy us more time to pay for the closure and post-closure costs. And I believe the plan as proposed could add another 20 to 25 years of life to the landfill, so that would be really exciting. General administration, that is kind of two things. One, we're looking at acquiring a large vinyl printer cutter. You know, there are a number of times we have to contract for wrapping and things of that nature, and so we are looking and think it might make sense to do some of those things in-house, as well as kind of annual IT equipment upgrades are included in that 50. And lastly, vehicle maintenance, that's for our public works fleet to replace some of the existing vehicles and equipment there. So again, not to spend too much time, but this is a breakdown of our funds. I know I throw out a lot of words.
Okay, Matt.
I've got 2 slides left.
Okay, because I'm getting burnt. I don't know about the rest of you. Okay, and what was this? That was 15 minutes, right?
He said 41.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to learn to count, and here you are.
I'll always bet the. I don't write the parentheses next to that, so you'll have to talk to the city manager's office. I don't recall ever committing to that.
I'm bummed about even talking about this
Well,
because
let
it's
him go, let him go.
it's adding minutes to this whole thing. Anyway, we love you, but go ahead.
So just real quick, if you have questions on where the funds are, this is a breakdown of kind of where everything falls within the city, as well as I have a breakdown of the staffing changes so you can compare year over year. I'm just kind of highlighting one last thing is if you compare our fiscal 20, that's the budget, so that's our pre-COVID staffing. We had 70 full-time employees and 141 kind of full, part-time, elected, et cetera. And in this budget, we're looking at 131, and so that's 64 full-time employees compared to the 70 pre-COVID. So we are doing a lot with fewer people as well. So I just wanted to thank city staff for all their hard work and wanted to highlight that fact as well in the budget. With that, are there any questions? Again, the goal is to give you guys this document. You'll have a couple weeks to look at it. My door is always open. If you have questions, shoot me an email, give me a call. But I'm happy to answer any questions now as well.
I'm just curious, did you put in money for the arts, the homeless, and the Humane Society?
We did. We
Okay,
have
that's all I
5,000 right now in the budget for the homeless, 5,000 for public arts, and I've talked to Dave about incorporating public art within some of the capital projects, so even though it's not a line item in the budget. And then right now we do have 10,000 for the Humane Society.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Very good.
It's nice to be able to understand kind of the whole process, so much better than in years past, so.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn this meeting and
I don't think this is my longest presentation. I could keep going. In fact, I have to come back a couple more items tonight, so look out.
Okay, thank you, Matt, very much. Okay, consent calendar.
Okay. Item 1, approval of minutes from the May 21st, 2024 regular city council meeting. Item 2,
Don't go
approval.
away mad.
Approve total expenditures for May 13th, 2024 through May 24th, 2024 totaling $929,272.66.
I'll move to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent.
I'll second.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponce?
Aye.
Councilmember Schickling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye. Come on back, Matt.
Oh, no. So we have a public hearing on the fiscal year 24-25 miscellaneous fee schedule. So we're asking council to hear a brief presentation regarding the miscellaneous fee schedule, open the public hearing for public comment, close the public hearing, and if consensus, adopt a resolution.
Okay, we're gonna hear a presentation.
It's actually the good news. I don't have a presentation prepared. I do have the fee schedule up if there are specific questions. In general, most of the fees we're increasing by 3.9%. And that's what CPI was looking at April 24 to 23 for LA County. Some of the fees we elected not to increase, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, some requests from even numbers, so rather than having a park rental fee of $31, we elected to keep it at $30, and that way it's just a little easier for everyone making change and all that good stuff. And so a number of the rec fees did not go up. Actually, I don't believe any of them did, other than there was, I think, one dealing with lighting at Joe Machado that went from 48 to 50, again, with the idea of kind of evening those numbers. And the other one, just the other two to quickly highlight is one, our vehicle fee went up last year from 37 to 50. I did not include any increase in this year's for the vehicle fee. Not that we won't look at that rate again. 51 just seemed like a frustrating number to to charge everyone, and so that one's kept the same at 50 again going into next year. And similarly, I believe the late fee was 31, but we kept charging everyone 30 for it, and so we just made that late fee 30. So pay on time, you don't have to worry about the late fee, but we did make that 30 from 31. And then lastly, it's with the ambulance rates. Those we tie with the LA County rates. And so if you notice that increase, it went up considerably, and it's not tied to our CPI, but it's tied to what the county rates are for those ambulance services.
So I have a question, some kind of a survey, or I'm not sure, some stats maybe at some point. If we look at the number of residential autoettes we have and the number of residential vehicles and commercial vehicles and whatever, then we look at who all participates in that, from Rocio at the front desk to fiscal to code enforcement, and the percentage of their time that are dealing with vehicles. And does it pay for itself?
And that's really what we tried to do last year, raising it from the 37 to 50. We did look at code enforcement's time, Rocio's time, and we think it does a better job recouping the cost for it. But again, it's really just for the administration of the program, not even so much of the enforcement of it. So if there are 4,000 vehicles, which I don't believe there's that many, at 50, it's 200,000 would be the annual revenue, but I think we're considerably less than that is what it brings in.
All right, thank you, answered that.
And so the bicycle license, it's free now?
We did lower that to free, and that was a request of a department head, and that was really to encourage people to license their bicycles. You know, we didn't want I believe it was $15 or $13 before. Really the goal is to get as many bicycles licensed as we can. We have very few bicycles that participate in the program, and so one of the goals by eliminating that fee would hopefully encourage more people to come and participate in the program. And if we do get better participation, it would help us then send to renewals and things like that. That's one of the challenges we have with so little participation in it, is and we're not talking the commercial bikes right now, we're talking about the individual bike owners, that there's really not a lot of participation at the individual level, and so hopefully by free we can encourage more people to register their bikes with City Hall, so that way if a bike gets picked up or is abandoned somewhere, we know who the owner of the bike is.
It'd be nice if we could advertise that in the make a headline in the newspaper that this is free, register your bicycle and this is why, or your e-bike, because how are they even gonna know unless they're watching today that it's now free? So these are bikes and e-bikes? Bikes and e-bikes.
Yes, but they would be not the commercial ones, just the
Right.
the individual ones.
Personal
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somehow get the word out there. I guess that's all I'm saying. Okay. Any other questions? If you're gonna come up to talk, you need to come up to if you're gonna come up and talk, you need to come up, Lindsay, because the rest of the community can't hear you at all.
I personally caught somebody stealing a bike once because I had registered it. I just wanted to say that.
Good.
So,
Well, thank you, good, yeah. No, that's good. We'd like to see her face up here. Okay. Anything else? Okay. I'm gonna open the public hearing. Any public comments or anything coming your way, Devin? Close the public hearing. And is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the fee schedule as proposed.
Second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponce?
Aye.
Councilmember Schickling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall, just to confirm, you seconded the motion?
Yes,
Is
I
that
did.
correct? Thank you.
Okay, item number 4.
Item number 4 under general business, is, I think Jocelyn will come up, resolution approving new classifications and descriptions.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tonight I'm recommending you guys adopt a resolution approving new classifications for the positions of Lead Code Enforcement Officer and Information Technology Manager. The Lead Code Enforcement Officer position, it's in the salary schedule already. It's a part of the SEIU General Employees Group. I think it was just an oversight several years ago when the position was created and filled to formalize and adopt a job description. So that's what is before you tonight. And then the new position that Matt made reference to in the budget presentation is Information Technology Manager. Right now, we have a consultant that's equivalent to a quarter of a person a year, which is not enough for a full-service city. We have the fire department and the harbor department that are 24/7 operations. And I've been here a little over a year now, and we need more support in that department. You know, we looked at other full-service cities, big and small, coastal, and it's, you know, having one full-time staff person relative to how many employees we have hired at the city, you know, it was a reasonable request. We do have that vacant administrative analyst position in the admin budget, so it would be, you know, upgrading that position to IT manager, and roughly, you know, depending on who fills that position, additional budget request of $50,000 a year for that added position, but I think it's well worth it. So if there's any questions on specifically the job responsibilities or what we're looking to do for next fiscal year.
So this is just tech stuff. They don't actually put things on our website. They just make sure it's all working and upgrade and coordinating.
Yeah, so it's all of the computers and monitors, printers, copy machines, the servers, the AV system, emails, certainly our file storage, software programs, you name it. I mean, and it can, you know, extend beyond all of that. I mean, we've got, you know, boats in the harbor that have a lot of equipment installed on them. As an example, cell phones, laptops. I just think it really makes sense to have somebody.
Okay, now you get, okay.
Yeah.
And they're gonna change my password for me every 2 or 3 months. Yeah. Okay.
So I was just kind of confused reading through this. So the lead code enforcement, there's already a person in that position. It's just not official. So we're just gonna make it official that that's that person's title.
We're making the job description official. So when I took over overseeing code enforcement, I pulled the job descriptions, could not find one that had been approved by City Council for lead code enforcement officer. So we drafted this in concert with that employee and with the SEIU to formally adopt what this person's roles and responsibilities
Okay,
are.
so we're not hiring a new person. We're just
just
defining what his
officially-
position
yeah.
is and giving it a title.
Yeah.
However, for the lead IT person, we're keeping Pat, right? But we're hiring a new person, or Pat's free to apply for this job, or this is a new position, right?
It's a completely new position. As far as what's in the budget request for next fiscal year, it would be this new IT manager position. In addition, Pat's contract is in the budget unchanged. My vision is that would allow Pat to cross-train and work with that new IT manager position. And then after a year of that, then, you know, maybe Pat just comes for special projects. You know, we're working on cameras today, maybe it's helping with cameras and not like the day-to-day helping with passwords and, you know, installing new computers and such.
It
So.
would take a year. When Bob Greenwell, whenever he decides to leave, we're not gonna be able to keep him on for a year to train somebody else, are we, or anybody else?
Annie?
Right, what?
Let's remember how tech savvy you are. So,
I know, but we're
I'm just-
hiring somebody that is the technical expertise
well,
already.
you kind of want to keep somebody here as the backup.
Another whole year.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, but
I
he's
mean,
only part-time.
He's only part-time.
he's he's a quarter.
And it's a contract. It's
The
not-
contract is $80,000 a year, which is not, you know, it's completely reasonable. And IT is, there's so many different philosophies as it relates to IT and how people set up the back office and the infrastructure. And so it's so important to have a good handoff when you're bringing in a new person. And that new person may want to go on vacation or may be out sick one day. And so to have Pat still on to help would be amazing.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, I mean, in addition to the changes from the city's website and platform and the technology that we're bringing on in a lot of different areas, having an IT manager on, I think, is extremely important in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of cohesive strategies for moving forward as well, and improving efficiency for city staff too. I think that those things are huge right now, so I'm actually really excited for this position to be brought on.
I am too. I
Yeah.
just was curious about the overlap.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All righty, any comments or questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a
adopt-
mo-
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving new classifications and job descriptions for lead code enforcement officer and information technology manager.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponce?
Aye.
Councilmember Schickling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a discussion regarding cruise ship wharfage. At this time, this is something we wanted to just put in front of council for a discussion item to get your thoughts on where you'd like to see us go. Regarding cruise ship wharfage, I think the staff report is self-explanatory. This is, I just want to point out that the cruise ships, while the city's recovery of the $5 per passenger on the manifest has been consistent over the last number of years, the amount of money the cruise ships have been paying to arriving in Avalon has been increasing because of Measure H, from 50 cents to $1 to $2 as April 1st. So they're paying $7. The city receives $5. That's been pretty static, but looking at this and trying to give them, our goal would be to give them at least 12 months, if we can get this passed, notice, so they can wrap it into, tie it into their price increases that they're going to advertise. They generally want 18 months, but I've seen 12 months will probably do it. And we'd like to increase this from $5 to $2 for the city's portion of it. Or, I'm sorry, $5 to $7.
So it'd be $9 they're paying.
They'd pay $9, the city would go from 5 to 7 for what we're receiving.
So I don't remember, excuse me, I don't remember, but I do recall that we did put a sunset on Measure H, but I don't remember how long that was. There was an end date. There's no end
There's
date?
no end date.
There's no end date on Measure H.
On Measure H.
But it
Well,
stops at $2.
I shouldn't say that. The end date is when the project is
When the-
paid off.
Yeah, when the.
Right,
yeah.
there's a certain end date to H, and then if the project is not done, then those funds go directly to the city.
But it's based on the cost of the project as compared to a
Correct.
specific calendar date.
All right, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Okay, any comments? Recap what, say it again, Scott. Scott,
I didn't understand what he said.
Scott,
Me?
say it
Yes.
again.
Yes, so for H, there may be an outside date of 40 years, but it also says that once the hospital is complete, within, then that sunsets. And if at any time the hospital decides not to construct the building, then that measure stops to be in effect and all funds go to the city.
To city, okay,
So
so
they
did you
have
say,
to build it, and if they don't, then the city gets those funds.
how many years? I didn't get that number.
I believe it's 40 years.
40.
I think it's 40, yeah.
40, okay.
It
got
may be 40 or 30. I can check and I'll text Dave during the meeting. I have to look on my other computer for it.
Okay. You're welcome. Do you feel, y'all feel this is, I know some people are gonna say, Annie, that's just not enough money, you need to.
I think that,
increase it.
yeah, I like that I think the $2 now to catch up on the cost increases and to also benefit future projects and maintenance of those projects. The mall is going to undergo a huge update, which the cruise ship passengers will use and appreciate. I think that it's a relatively fair amount. I know that we also, I have a number of community members specifically who have said, well, how come we're not as high as Santa Barbara or other communities? Some of those communities are also in the game of trying not to have cruise ships come on purpose. And we know that, I know that people have mixed feelings about cruise ships and the environmentality of them and the number of people they bring in and the positives and negatives of all that. I do think that it makes sense, though, from a planning position to not only look at this $2 increase starting within, 12 months, or even if the cruise ship does need 18 months. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. But I do think we should also look at a regular increase after that of 50 cents a year, that would help cover the cost increase for the things that we're looking at in the budget, for the general fund to have additional projects to be able to happen in the area, that would then add up over time without scaring away, hopefully, the cruise ships and making it an amount that is not so significant that it damages people's perception of coming here or the cost of doing business.
And all projects just in the harbor.
Does this help
Correct,
us
this would be all harbor
cover like
projects.
EMT as well and paramedics?
Well, what this would benefit is the harbor fund,
Okay.
which, by doing that, obviously benefits all other funds that we don't have to devote general fund money to them.
Excuse me, here comes Mr. Baker.
So any of those funds would stay in the harbor, but if you look at the adopted budget, in order to do all the capital projects, if we were to do them all next year, and just given timing, there's good reason to think we won't necessarily get them all completed next year. The general fund right now in the budget is subsidizing the harbor to complete those projects within that budget document. So I believe it's about 400,000, that number.
So if you look at doing 50 cents a year times the current count of guests at 360,000-ish, then you're looking at an additional $180,000 per year added back into the budget from that 50-cent increase. And then the $2 increase would, of course, be 4 times that. So you're looking at not having to subsidize the harbor fund anymore, having some money put back into reserves, hopefully, for capital improvement, and building that fund over time.
So with going up to $7, it would be $2, and then $2 for the Measure H, so that's $4, right? That's what their increase would be? So why don't we make it an even 5 and go
Measure H
8 and
is
2?
There's no increase in Measure H.
Measure H is already at $2.
It's
Yeah.
$2.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
7
sure.
right now,
You would
5
just
from
get
us and 2
7.
already.
Oh, so it'd
They're
only
already
be
at 7.
$2.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so, I was like, why don't we go 3, so it'd be like $5 extra to them? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we feel, and I think it's a good idea that if we go forward with this and adopt the $2 and then put something in down the road where it's an automatic 50-cent increase, I think that's a great idea.
Bad idea, yeah.
And then this $2 would get us, I'm assuming, the 50 cent wouldn't start again the following year. We'd give it some time, and then that would kick in.
I mean, I would assume if we're gonna implement this now for 2025 or 2026, even if we give the full 18 months. So 2026 is the $2 implementation, which is plenty of time for new bookings since they're just now starting to take new bookings in that season, I think. And then 2020, I would say 27 or maybe 28, you could go 50 cents and then do 50 cents every year
Or
from
you
then.
could tell them that right after that, it's gonna be 50 cents.
Yeah, could we add that now to the amendment?
I think we should, just so that they're aware of it. It's not a surprise, but also we're not trying to slip
Yeah.
anything in or do anything crazy. We're giving them very fair warning.
So what we'd bring to you in 2 weeks is legislation reflecting that.
Yeah.
Let me just clarify, 2 weeks, or because we're raising a fee, we have to make certain that all the notice provisions are complied with and any reports that need to be done. So we'll bring it to you as quick as that's done with direction of an 18-month trigger. And then just for the hospital, the measure age stays into effect for 40 years, or when the hospital's complete and all the construction costs are paid, or if measure H is repealed by voters. So 40 years, hospital complete, or repealed by the voters.
And how do you tell when it's complete? When we cut the ribbon or what? Or
Let me see what it says. When all the costs for constructing the hospital and any financing are paid for.
And
So it's
finance.
initial construction. When the initial construction is complete and any any financings are paid for.
Wow, okay, perfect, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right, so you got your direction?
No.
Oh,
Can I-
I'm sorry,
thank
Jim.
It's been said after I stood up, but we've heard for years that 18 months is really the minimum window that the cruise lines need in order to build this into their pre-sales. And Lisa, I think you and I have talked about this before, a multi-year schedule of increases is exponentially better for everyone on all fronts to plan around, not excluding the city themselves. So if it's 50 cents a year and you can publish like a 5-year schedule or something, then that's awesome.
Excellent, yeah, great, Jim, thank you. Come on up.
Hi, Danny Hall. Thank you for the opportunity. 50 cents? Is that what you think we're worth? I mean, look at what is some of the impacts that this industry does, not to just themselves and the ocean, but I mean, you know that the Carnival Corporation doesn't pay any tax, federal tax, is totally based in Panama, and I think it also was the sponsor of The Apprentice. Just for little known facts. But there's unintended consequences that we're not always factoring in here, that lots of places are running from cruise ships, and people don't want to live in cruise ship ports. And yet we had 5 in a row. We're having them on weekends, and we are letting them stay longer. And all of this detracts from the quiet, calm charm of Avalon, and it always has. So I think that even though you're going to add another ship that is huge and is going to like double our population eventually, especially on the 3rd of July, we've got one coming. You know, stuff is gonna break. But I really, I got an odd letter today that really says it much better. It was from a woman who happened to be listening to a conversation at the coffee shop, and she was from the Balboa Yacht Club, and we were bashing cruise ships, of course. And she writes this. She said, Hi, Mr. City Manager. We're boaters and come regularly to Avalon to get away from the rat race of the city. We love the restaurants, the shops, the new grocery store, new museum and nostalgic sites and hiking the horse trail and around town. We're finding that we are leaving the island on Monday in lieu of lingering for more days, visiting more restaurants, etc., as the cruise ships bring into town the very things we are attempting to escape. Recently, I was told that the city is considering bringing in bigger cruise ships. I sincerely hope this is not the case. I know the revenue is tempting, but I wonder how it compares to the boaters' contributions. We boaters support the local restaurants, attractions, grocery, clothing, and support the Avalon community because we feel like we're a small part of it with charitable contributions and other causes. Please tell whoever you must, but please don't do it. So that just pretty much sums it up, I think. And a lot of cities are going in this direction. And so to have a $2 raise, a 50-cent raise is just selling ourselves short. What other Channel Island are they going to go to?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to complain about cruise ships, but I'm going to make a suggestion for the money you save by not having to pay for the harbor. And once again, I'm talking about teacher housing. And this year we're losing 12 positions have been.
Excuse me, we're on this agenda item, and so that should have been brought up during public comment.
Okay.
So we're not able, we're on item number 5, so we're not able to deal with housing unless you're suggesting we get a cruise ship to put them in.
That'd be a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to sound rude, but that's kind of how this has to go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I was trying to connect it, but at that time I didn't realize that all the funding went to the harbor, and I was hoping some of the funding would go to teacher housing.
No, I appreciate that. I know,
Okay.
that's a big problem. Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
Okay, so are we, any other comments on item 5?
No, I
Counsel?
think, I mean, I hear what Jani's saying and what some of the other people say, you know, but
If I have a comment from somebody on my phone, do I talk about that or not?
she can say it, can't she? Comment on her phone? Or does that have to come through you?
Scott, if a comment is coming directly to a council person's phone?
The council person can disclose it as long as that person, I assume that that person is providing a comment for you to read into the record. If that's the case, then you can definitely do that.
Oh, they didn't say specifically that. They were just texting me saying, I have an idea. Why don't we do this? So. But, okay.
An idea you think we're sharing?
What?
Is that an idea you think we're sharing?
Is it worth sharing?
Yeah, she just said, why go, we should go up to $10.
Yeah, the issue there is any fee has to be based upon, you know, the actual services required in the harbor. And so we have to, that's why we have to do some legal study and processing to make certain that we're not using this as a money-making thing. It can only cover the cost of harbor. So that's part of that is the limitation, and we want to make certain that when you adopt this, that it is compliant with California law on how you can raise fees.
Okay, so staff recommendation is fine, that you guys did the research, so the $7 is cool. And then we could amend it and put your language in it, the 50 cents per year after that?
I think we're comfortable and we can justify the 50 cents a year as it increases down the road is gonna really just cover the cost of inflation as we go forward, so,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Okay.
If, I know that I had asked earlier about the paramedics, but would this be under a different one? It wouldn't be harbor if we wanted to look into having them cover like another, not full position, but if we needed more help with our paramedics and have the cruise ship cover it, would that be a different part of this, or?
the worry there, I guess, would be then if they're directly covering staff and personnel, then we are getting more and more married to them. Because then they're tied directly to that. But, I mean, as far as the amount of staffing that we need to handle the cruise ships, that's something, the conversation that we have internally, and we'll continue to have that. But if we feel that that's an impact, yes, I mean, we would come back and address it.
And any non-harbor impacts, the only way to do that is to go to the Coastal Commission. And I'm sorry, yeah, it was Coastal Commission. We had to do that with Measure H because that was, the hospital's not in the harbor. And so we had to go, I think Coastal and state lands to get permission to enact that fee for a facility that's not in the harbor. So it's easier if it stays in the harbor. We can directly connect it to the harbor and the harbor facilities.
Okay. Jenny, were you gonna come and say something?
I think this is a big issue, and what would prevent it from being put on a ballot? Because we had a cruise ship resistance committee session 2 years ago or something with the former city manager. And it was decided it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There would be no weekends, and it would not stay till 5, 6 o'clock, I don't believe. And there was never supposed to be on a holiday. But yet I have seen all these things happen on a, not regular basis, but certainly with repositioning, it's just random. And you have to look at the schedule of the chamber to figure it out. And I just don't think it's being, super effective. So what if we put it on a ballot and just say yes or no 3 days a week?
I mean, part of what we'd be bringing to council is the cruise ship legislation, which covers, all those aspects. But right now, we are still abiding by the existing legislation. I mean, there are times we do not routinely have them on weekends. Sometimes there's repositioning, sometimes there's weather, which that request has come in and it's been granted, but it's very rare.
So Scott, to answer her question, Jani's question.
Well, because this is not a fee generating revenue, the city council can do it. There's nothing that prevents citizens from putting a ballot measure together on cruise ships and limiting cruise ships.
Okay. So that answers your question.
So it doesn't have to go through the city council?
Well, you could also have an ordinance that goes ahead and establishes a fee, but if it's for a general fee that applies to anything in the city, then there's certain requirements. You gotta get 2/3 approval, whereas this is a fee connected with impact on city's facilities. You just need a majority of council to approve that.
Well, the reason I think fees should be doubled, if nothing else, is that we don't know what it's doing to our sewage and our landfill. We're just playing it by ear, and we've got 25 years.
We can't enact any fee based upon what we don't know. It has to be fact specific. So that's one thing. Lately, California courts have really been looking very carefully at fees enacted, and they have to be on actual cost, not speculative cost for things we don't know. So that's why there's a bunch of measures for the legislature to limit cities and their ability to raise fees, and that's why we're going to look at this with our fee people to make certain that anything the city does is appropriate.
Well, it doesn't sound like great government to me.
Thanks. Okay. All right, so you've gotten direction unless there's more.
We'll have a direction, and we'll bring in a future date.
Yeah. Bob Greenlaw.
And then finally, item number 6, elbow enhancement discussion. Mr. Greenlaw.
Good evening, Bob Greenlaw. Thanks to the city manager that did the intro earlier on. I'm going to repeat a few of those things in a very quick fashion, just in case somebody took a snippet and looked at me here on the film and said, did I give a complete presentation? So we're here tonight to review the rollout of the Elbow Demonstration Project. That's the name we assigned to the sharp curve in the roadway intersection of Pebbly Beach Road and Crescent Avenue by the Trailhead building. It has been a little over 3 weeks since the demonstration project started. The demo includes the temporary widening of the sidewalk along Crescent, along the store frontage there, because we saw that people naturally wanted to walk in the roadway along that and they needed an additional space of 2 feet. It added barriers along the roadway edges to separate and direct the ped flow so that the peds didn't walk just randomly in the middle of the traffic and the traffic could move smoothly through there, providing a better sense of place and for all modes to have a safe place to be. And then we added a mid-block crosswalk at the apex of the curve, and we removed the parking, those 4 parking spots there that were in front of the storefront. So staff has met with the abutting shareholders multiple times, at least once each week since the implementation. We heard mostly very positive things and a few corrections of things that we said that we would make, tweaks in it, and that's what a demonstration project's about, is to keep on tweaking it until we get maybe what would be the final design so that we could lead into a design study if we do ultimately implement it. And that hopefully makes the system as a whole better. So the things that we heard from those meetings was the sidewalk widening was a good improvement, and it helped move pits smoothly there. The half a scramble crosswalk, so a scramble intersections when you can go diagonally as well as from corner to corner, and that's why we call that crosswalk a half a scramble, because it goes diagonally there. So that helps direct people that they could go there, and that hopefully what that does, it makes their movements quicker, helps them make a decision that they can move through to that area over there, and then funnels them where they should be on that one sidewalk if they're not continuing on that walkway. Traffic flow seems smoother for all traffic modes, so for vehicular, for bikes, for trucks, for the peds. It all seemed like it was moving smoothly, as the demonstration progressed. Of course, it's rough on the first few days. You see it smooth now if you go out there and watch it today. For the most part, every mode is moving smoothly through there. We heard that the congestion from the businesses nearest the intersection is a concern, mixing with the ped traffic that is going through on the sidewalk. So we're still working on those with those 3 corner businesses, so the Trailhead, the Pancake Cottage, and also the golf cart rentals there. And that's really to look at what their operations and how they're operating within the public right-of-way. Because as you go out there and view this now and you see that how these businesses expanded in the past into the public right-of-way and the use of how do we correct that and make that all into one system that let them think about their operations within the private properties first and what they needed to do to make some changes there. And so what we say is highest and best use of the real estate, and that's for necessity if you have to go into the public right-of-way, not convenience. So when it starts breaking down because of necessity, that's where maybe we can alter some things, but otherwise try to make your operational plan work, within the private space. And then we also, in response to it, made the mid-block crosswalk we heard from them that the mid-block crosswalk needs to be wider and open to the path.
That's what we're looking at right here.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in response, we added additional signage and roadway markings. We'll look at the pictures here in a minute. Widened the mid-block crosswalk, and that was implemented today, and open the stanchions in that area so that you can get across there, so it's more apparent when you're on there, how to get through that narrow corridor. And we added additional stanchions at the paved area in front of the trailhead to direct the pedestrian flow. And it's still not the real look, but what we were trying to do is, instead of people just randomly walking in that area that used to be used by vehicular traffic, now they have to split the flow and decide to go on the trailhead crosswalk or go on what we've now made, which is the natural path of travel that people wanted to do was on the edge of the roadway, and now we've provided a stanchion for protection, and now we've really provided them guidance of where they should go if they wanted to continue along that path. Okay, and then we also worked with the business on operational plans for movements within the flow within the right-of-way. But it became apparent last week that we were not getting a real look at the full potential of the mid-block crosswalk, since the final alignment is intended to funnel some of the flow from the pedestrian mall coming down from the walkway, coming down from the mall down into town, into that mid-block crosswalk. So it's not very apparent from what the final, and that's what we see in the final project, and I'll show you in the pictures that there's this dramatic viewpoint where you can see the pedestrian mall and people want to get across the street. And if we open that up, and so what we see is that there is a large space there in that piece of real estate in that area where between the Palapa and the Serpentine wall that's not being used at all. So we're not even using that piece of real estate. And even if the project didn't go forward, we're not using that real estate. So opening at least up in the area where the Palapa, I think it makes it a beneficial use, project or not. So the only other piece is we'd be opening up the Serpentine wall there, which always could put back. So what I'm trying to say, it's not a fatal flaw decision to do this. But a very good look to give us a real look to help give us a real design for the future. So what you see here in this first picture is the look today. You can see that there is a black stripe down that widened sidewalk. That was where the crosswalk bar was. So you can see how narrow it was. And then where the guy's standing across the street, you can see we've opened up the stanchion. So let's see if I can.
So hopefully he'll be walking behind that stanchion to go to town.
So Matt, can I get a forward on that? My butt. Oh, here we go. Okay. So now you can see, here's the second slide where it's widened there. You can see that the stanchions are totally opened. And let's go one more here. Now you can see where it was really tight before, and especially the people that were going to the Pancake Cottage were saying, I can't get people across the street because they don't understand how to get to the business, especially if they're coming in that direction from the pedestrian mall and going to the Pancake Cottage, and people are sitting at the bench there. Just wasn't very apparent. We're going to even put up some more signing to direct them there, but we have put up that. So this is what we got implemented today. And this is that area it's not being as no man's land out there, So, so what we're thinking about is taking out this Palapa, or at least a piece of it, and then also taking out a piece of the Serpentine wall that's right there that would open it up, and then realigning that sidewalk so that I can show you this next photo. So I'm standing on over the box culvert that goes out to the ocean, which is the extension of the pedestrian mall, and I'm looking right at the Palapa and where you would be going across there. And this one is showing right now, if you look to the right at the end on the beach, the seat wall on the beach, and the light there, we've put a sign. I need to do a better job of that sign. We installed that today. I need to brighten up the color and make it a little bit larger. But it says crosswalk right there, because that was the point that they brought to our attention is like, I'm walking down there. How do I know that there's a crosswalk here, Because it's not very apparent. And so that's what this next kind of step with the project is now you can see where we'd realign the crosswalk more to the right in the picture, and it would go right through that Palapa there, okay? So that we would be taking out a little bit of the planter and the Serpentine wall there to open it up, and then we'd open up the Palapa also.
So you're gonna, will you go back, if you wouldn't mind going back?
Yes.
So you're gonna, the green that's there, the greenery, so the.
A small piece of it. I think that, when I was out there looking today, we were planning on just doing the serpentine wall, but I think there may be some benefit here where the light post is to make that grade, because it's getting too pinched that if we could put some interim pavers there, I mean, it's pretty simple. Take out a piece of curb, put some interim pavers and so that we'll work through the details. I'm just saying, this is the path of travel here. We'll make it look good in the interim. I mean, as the project moves forward, you're gonna have landscape architects, you're gonna have civil engineers. You're gonna have people that really do a robust design for us that will really refresh this whole area. So they'll make all that work. I'm just trying to make, for a low cost, try to get this real look, okay? And then here's looking back. Now I'm on the other side of the Palapa, and you can see that that would be where I would align the crosswalk a little bit to the left in this picture, and you'd go straight across, and there would be that opening. So you'd go through the Palapa, the area where the Palapa is, you'd go through where the wall is, and there'd be a widened area there for you to go straight across.
So that piece of the wall would be gone?
Yeah.
Not all the wall, not all the
Just
wall.
that
Just
curve. Just piece of
yeah, an
it.
opening,
Yeah.
yeah, because we don't want the wall all gone, because then everybody goes all.
Yeah, where that curve is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like maybe the first couple of aloe plants that were there in that
Okay.
picture.
Okay.
Okay, and then further this way, as you're walking back to where the mole is, there's that one, like in this picture, you can really see it, the one white stripe crosswalk. Because before that, on the way from the mole, there's like 3 designer crosswalks
Yes,
to get to the other side of the street.
Yes.
So I love this idea of going straight through, plowing through, but I think if we do that, I think it would behoove us to remove that white stripe crosswalk. Just make everybody go, if they wanna go across to the other side of the street, where the golf cart rental is and Chowbachi and all of that kind of stuff, take one of the 3 crosswalks, but once they get past the basketball courts, stanchion off that crosswalk right there, because then you'd have a stop there for that crosswalk, and then you'd have a stop there for this other crosswalk, then you'd have another stop down there. I'm thinking of traffic flow.
Yes,
So if we took
and-
out the white stripe one, it would be, you got 1, 2, 3 to deal with, and then this big main one, and then this other main one.
and I agree that we need to look at those crosswalks, but to keep it simple for now, we were trying to go, let's get this crossing and see the look, and what's our next.
Absolutely, but this just needs stanchions across it. I mean, with the rest of the stuff, because they're already funneled that way. They're already funneling that way.
Could we block the one that's, the volleyball courts in the park, how there's
Yeah,
one opening there, could we
it's-
block that off?
It's laid out right now to be blocked off. At some point, we want to attempt that, but we left that open for right now, because we want to make sure that we're talking to all the businesses, that everybody's good, and we do a demonstration, and then see get that data on that, okay?
Yeah, but I want to keep that. I think we should keep all 3 of those, but then block off this last one, because they've had 3 opportunities to get all on that side of the street and flow down that way.
I still think that's too many.
Okay.
Like
But they won't in the
one of them's
future.
gotta go. There's like 2 right away, one
Okay.
of them's gotta go.
Okay.
So do we feel like the mid-block crosswalk is working? That's the first question. And do we feel like it's working? And if it is working but not giving us a real look, that's what we're asking for tonight, to give that a better look. I think we got a lot more discussion with council and the community coming in for all the elements, okay?
Right.
And just an FYI, that one big crosswalk that's there right now where Ben is, that is a stop sign. So all the other ones don't have stop signs. That's the only one that has stop signs.
Right, but so you have to stop there, and then if we put in this big giant one, then like
So,
10
and there-
feet, you're gonna have
And
to
there may
stop
be
again.
an alternative where stop signs, we need to stop or yield, so we need to talk about those.
Right.
And those are
But
demonstration.
I just want to
elements.
point out that
Yeah.
right now,
Right, so I'm
that's
saying.
the only, that's the only stop.
Yeah, so I'm saying move the stop sign.
Yeah, so the
Get rid of
beauty of,
that crosswalk and move the stop sign up to this Pancake Cottage crosswalk.
So we'll see the progression of traffic, and this do that.
Okay.
We're trying to open this up to get a better look, and then I think we have a further discussion on which crosswalks we keep, because every crosswalk we put out there and it doesn't have, they need to have good sight distance, okay? We make good decisions if we see each other. If we can't see each other, you're blocked for some reason, then that's not a good crosswalk for a city to have, a mid-block. So these are mid-block crosswalks without any stop control that people can randomly walk out, maybe behind a big vehicle. All those bad things all happen at once and make bad things. So we want to make sure that we're good with these crosswalks wherever they are. We design them to be the best and the most visible locations so that we have people make success in their decisions and we don't have any accidents, okay?
And
So
let me ask you, so you're getting rid of the pull-up and the benches, all of that?
right now, we at least need a slot to get through there, okay? And that slot looks like if I was standing from the mole side looking, I would at least have to take the right side of the palapa away, and I would have to at least put a 10-foot slot in the serpentine wall, a planter area, wherever that seems to lay out best, because we want to make it so it flows good. That's where we're going to get the best look at it, you know? If you have to make those 90-degree turns getting through there, yeah, you want it natural. There, people just flow there, and if they're at the pedestrian mall, they look and they can say, I can see it. From there, you don't really need much signage. They can figure it out themselves, you know?
Well, that was the big issue there, is that they knew that the flow should have gone straight, so they walked out.
Yeah.
So now this is better control of them.
Natural. It's
Natural,
natural.
yeah.
Just organic. It's just they're doing what they want to do, you know. And that was the same thing with the path of travel along the trailhead. We saw it. We saw it for years, and we implemented it. And look, it's working great. We still have, after this, we still have definitely some details to work on that intersection. But as City Manager said, we're going to widen that up with final improvements. We think we can make all that work great with new paving, new markings, things that give people some direction on where they should be.
The one thing where that bench is, people do sit on the bench facing the mole, because it has shade, they're tired, they gotta continue to walk out there, so,
Mayor, I just want to say, ultimately, we want a lot more benches out there. The whole area, I think, is underutilized, and we're planning on putting more benches out there than currently is, ultimately. I mean, that's.
But see, right where you're looking right there, exactly. Wait, you go back. This is where people sit, right where we're looking at. And you're saying that's going away right now?
So at least the right side of it.
That side.
No, like,
No,
no.
where the two- where the
If
two
it's
lanes-
this
I'm
way,
standing-
in half, this way.
Go
Through
back,
it,
there, where the pink, where the lady in pink is,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
that part.
Because it has 3 posts, 3 columns to hold the
Yeah, you would
palapa up.
just go straight through.
If I just take half of it away, you would have enough, you would have a good look at least.
Okay, I just know that is utilized a lot.
It is.
It is, so maybe then if we could do something, because there is no shade, could we do something over by this way? Where the benches are along the,
Old Ben Park, or where are you talking about?
yeah, by Old Bend Park?
Yeah.
If there's any way we could add any kind of shade,
Sure.
that would just be wonderful, but, okay, but I get. And there's not gonna be any problem with the ATM or the photo booths?
That's why we selected this to start, so we're not tearing out the world. We are demoing a piece of something that could even be put back in if we, like I say, it's not a fatal flaw, but I'm thinking even when you take that piece out, everybody will sit around the whole bench. Right now, they're not going to the other side. I think it will be utilized as more seating and more space out there, and then you could even roll out some little tables with umbrellas, you know, in the interim, you know, just see how that worked out, and, you know, that's pretty simple to do right now.
Well, that's not a bad idea for Old Ben Park, you know, because I do see people lounging on those benches a lot, and there is no shade out there. And, you know, there's just the little grass and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
A giant umbrella.
No, but just to pull us out of the weeds, this is just adding asking for $25,000 to do planning and that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
Not the detail and all of that, just to get us
Well,
moving.
really what it's doing is to maybe get a contractor to help us remove this in a quick fashion so that you get a good look at it this summer, you know, of these improvements, because we are applying for Cycle 7 ATP funds, which that's what's funded Five Corners for us, great funding. We are gonna do that at the middle of this month, so we only have, you know, like 10 extra days here. We're gonna finish that application. But this gets us that better look, okay?
Okay, so, yeah, so the 25,000, you're gonna take off the Palapa, you're gonna do what we're
Yes.
just talking about right now?
Yes.
Okay.
We get some assistance, because we'll need it from a contractor. to get it.
Really quick, if the public does want to express a concern or suggestion, what would be the best way for them to go about that?
They can give me a call, they can send me an email, they can send the city manager, Devin. We're all here, yeah. And I am, at any time, just like we met with the stakeholder, we gotta get out with the community now. We want to get this as a better look, so that's kind of our next steps. But we're willing to meet with anybody, go out there and show them the project. And so, just like I showed you, I go, you see what we're seeing? And usually when I do that, they go, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
We've had a lot of people stopping us while we're out there. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
then,
Do you have any comments?
Okay, want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize a transfer of $25,000 from the annual traffic and transportation project 10550-6547.
I'll second.
Moved in second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Ponce?
Aye.
Councilmember Schickling?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle?
Aye.
Mayor Marshall?
Aye. Okay, no further business. Meeting adjourned.
Jim would like to get a picture.